Dave, can you give us permission to record the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Who was that?
This is Rati.
Rati, I am looking for you. I have to find you on my screen here to do that. That's something you have to do. There you are. Thank you for the wait. Yes, you can now record locally.
Okay.
That's something you can do person by person. We'll talk
Okay.
more about that when we get to talking about Zoom recordings.
Okay, Dave.
And I'm really going to need to get started now, unless it's something you can't see or hear, or there's a problem understanding what I'm saying.
Just a question on recording.
Well, yeah, but I'm gonna cover recording pretty fully here in a little while, and we've got enough folks today that I'm probably going to have to pretty much bore through today with the basic presentation, but I promise you I will allow you to ask questions at the end, and I will stay online as long as you have questions. I do not leave while there are still questions, either in the chat tool or verbally. So I will definitely answer those questions. Okay, very briefly, today's session is on a basic introduction to Zoom, the synchronous communication tool that we have available at the SDCCD. It is probably the best tool of its type on the market. It has become exceptionally famous worldwide with the lockdowns everywhere and so on. Most of you have probably attended Zoom meetings frequently, but you may not be comfortable or familiar with hosting your own Zoom meetings. And that's what we're all about today, is to make sure that you're able to do that. I'm Dave Giberson, in case I've not met you before. For many years, I was the senior instructional designer at Online Learning Pathways at the district. Now, as you can tell by looking at me, I'm just a senior citizen living in northern Idaho with my friends behind me here. That's a live picture out my back window of a pair of ospreys raising a chick. They're a lot more interesting than I am. I figured I'd give you something to look at that was was interesting today. I'll talk about how I'm doing that. That's not a standard Zoom feature. That's not something you'll be able to do without a little extra equipment, but it is fun. It shows you some of the fun things you can do with Zoom. Okay, I'll be sharing my screen much of the day. That is Zoom's superpower. Not only can you talk to your students as we're talking to one another right now, but you can share what is on your computer screen with your students, analogous to projecting the screen image from your laptop or your classroom computer through a data projector onto a screen behind you. Only in this case, your students can actually see what you're projecting, even if they're the ones who like to sit in the back of the room. They can see what's on your computer screen, and they can follow explanations that you're giving them based on what you're showing them. So it's again, probably the single most powerful feature of Zoom when it's used as a virtual classroom, as we're using it here. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I have my screen share settings set so that you can see my Zoom screens as well as anything else I bring up on my computer. That's a simple setting change in Zoom. So when I share my screen, you'll see me doing it. You'll see how I do it, and I'll talk about this more in context later. And now, of course, you're still seeing my Zoom screen, which I have in gallery view so that I can see all of you at one time. And that's very handy when you're trying to show people how to use Zoom. But right this minute, I don't want to show you the Zoom screen. I want to show you the outline for our session today. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I have more than one monitor on this computer. That's a very handy thing, not an essential, but a very handy thing to have when you're teaching through Zoom. Okay, I've introduced myself. Basic things you might need to do in Zoom today include unmuting yourself, which, let me bring that Zoom screen back. If you mouse over your Zoom screen, you'll see these menus pop up at the bottom of the screen. We'll talk a lot about these menus today, but the one I want you to be comfortable with right now is the mute unmute button. That allows you to control your microphone, whether it's on or off, and to mute yourself so that you're not transmitting sound inadvertently. You click on that button, and when the little red slash appears, you're muted. You can unmute yourself the same way, just by clicking on that button with a red slash. So that's how you control whether you're transmitting sound or not. I may have to mute you periodically if I'm getting background noise or something like that, but I will almost certainly leave you so that you can unmute yourselves when you want to say something, share something, ask a question. Also, well, I think I'll take the chat tool in context with the rest of the menu, since we don't have to use that right now. All righty, so that covers this. Don't worry about a roster. As Randy intimated earlier, Zoom keeps track of who attends your meetings. And you can go and get that roster after your meeting is over, a few minutes after it's over, and see who attended, how long they stayed in, and things like that. So I don't have to worry about taking that roster manually by having people put their names and email addresses in the chat tool anymore. It's a wonderful thing. That's a relatively recent development for us. Then we'll talk a little bit about why use Zoom, and spend most of our time today with the nuts and bolts of how to use Zoom. So let's start off with why. And I'm just going to stop my screen share for that, and we'll just talk. I can stop and start that screen share at will. So now you're just seeing me as you're seeing my image as I'm talking. You're probably in speaker view, which shows me more or less full screen, which is a typical way to start the meeting at least. The alternative to that is called gallery view. And if you look, let me share my screen again real quick. You can do that just on and off very quickly without having to take much time. If you look in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a little button. Yours is probably saying gallery view. And you can switch back and forth between those two views by just clicking that button. The gallery view gives you, as you're seeing here, a kind of Hollywood Squares look at the entire class. And I love this when I'm teaching, because I can sweep the entire class at a glance, especially those people who have their webcams turned on, which you can do down here in the Zoom menu. Just to the right of the little microphone icon, there's a little camera icon, and you can turn your camera on and off. My alter ego. So you don't have to leave your camera on. It's I like it if you do, because I can tell what's going on in the class. Just as I can do in a physical classroom, I can sweep the class at a glance, and I can see who's falling asleep, who's engaged, who's confused, and who's counting the minutes until they get out of this thing, and so on. So it's really useful. You can't require students to turn on their cameras, but you can encourage them. So here we are in gallery view, and let me stop my share again. I do that just by clicking at the top of my screen. When I'm sharing my screen, I have this little control bar. And on that control bar is a stop share button in red. It's real easy to see. So I can stop the share just by clicking on that, and now we're just talking. And you can go back and forth between those two modes in Zoom many times during a session. It's really nice when you're not showing something on your screen. It's nice for your students to be able to see you. It's much more personal, it's much more engaging. Even if you look like me. I've enlisted the friends, my little feathered friends behind me to make this more engaging. That's a pair of ospreys, fish eagles, who have built a nest in a tree down at the bottom of the hill behind my house. That's the kind of place I'm living in here. So why Zoom? We taught online classes for years using just a learning, mostly just using a learning management system. Blackboard for many years, Canvas more recently, where we post information for our students and they can view it on their schedule, you know, asynchronously. Don't have to be online same time we are. And then we post the assessments, the tests, the homework assignments and things like that in there. And a student can work their way through the entire course without ever seeing or hearing you. And that's how a lot of online courses used to be run. I hope not so much anymore. One of the, you know, it's an ill wind that blows nobody good. This pandemic crisis is, I think, going to make our online courses a lot better in the long run. For one reason, it has engendered the use of synchronous tools like Zoom in the online courses. That used to be much less common. And of course, when we had to switch quickly from an in-person, in-classroom teaching mode to a remote instructional mode in the middle of spring semester, the easiest way, conceptually, to do that was to just keep lecturing, but to do it on Zoom instead of face-to-face. And while that's not enough by itself in an online course, because you really can't assess students that way, it's still a wonderful thing to do. This sort of interaction is having some of this sort of interaction, at least in your online course, is a heck of a lot better than just having everything asynchronous and having the students work their way through a course in Canvas. You got to have that too, realistically, but this adds so much to it. It's a much more personal means of imparting information. It's a much more engaging activity. And you can do almost everything with Zoom that you can do in a classroom. One quote I've heard that I'm particularly fond of is, you can do everything with Zoom except smell the students. Yeah, and vice versa, I might add, so before we get to, but and I hope to convince you today that that is in fact true by teaching a class on Zoom in Zoom. Okay, so that's why we might want to use Zoom. It's good. It really engages your students, and it's a wonderful way to lecture, to impart information, to enhance what you're doing in Canvas. Enough of that, I think. But of course, we need more than the big picture here. We need to be able to use Zoom. So that's what the rest of this session is going to be dealing with. You nor your students have to have a Zoom account to attend a Zoom meeting. So you don't have to worry about whether your students will be able to attend your Zoom meetings or not. They will. They don't have to sign up for an account. They don't have to spend any money. They don't have to do anything other than click on a link you send them. We'll have more detail on that in a minute. But you, as the teacher who wants to host their own Zoom meeting, needs to have a Zoom account. And you really need to have what's called a Zoom Pro or professional account, because there are some limitations in the free basic Zoom accounts, which you or your students can get for free. And they work fine, but the major limitation is that your meeting can only be 40 minutes long. Trust me when I tell you, your students wish you would use a free Zoom account and that all class meetings would be no more than 40 minutes long. I know the people who attend mine wish that was the case, but that's probably not practical in most cases. So how can you get a Zoom account that will allow you to have meetings of whatever needed length whatever length you need, and not have to pay for it? Well, that's quite doable. And I'll share my screen again, and I'll show you how to do that. To do that, you just go to a website, bring up a web browser, any web browser, and zoom or in the web to conferzoom.org, O-R-G, CONFERZOOM.org. Let me put that in the chat tool if I can find my chat window here. There it is. Put that up here. I just type that in the line in the box at the bottom of the screen. Make sure I'm sending it to everyone. And let's see. Get your Zoom account. Now that's in the chat tool, which is accessed from the Zoom menus, bottom of your screen, about halfway over where it says chat. You can see that. You can click on it and actually go there. I'll do that in a moment. You can also, by going to the little More menu in the lower right-hand corner of the chat box, clicking on that, you can save the chat so that you don't have to remember this. You can go back and find it later. But here's conferzoom.org. Very simple website. This is from the organization called CCC Confer, which is the California Community College's video conferencing support unit and grant. It's housed over at Palomar College. And these folks, well, the State Chancellor's Office has, let me get that control bar out of the way so you don't have to look past that. The State Chancellor's Office has paid Zoom a ton of money so that you can have free Zoom professional accounts through Confer Zoom. All you have to do is click the sign up button here and fill out a simple form. First name, last name. Your email address needs to be your district email address, your .edu email address, to validate that you are in fact a California Community College faculty member, because that's, or staff member, either one is fine. That's the only people who are going to be able to get these free accounts, of course. Your organization is just your college or continuing education unit. Your classification is administrator, staff, or faculty. Your title would be the assistant professor of whatever, you know, is your academic title. They don't really care what you put there. And then I would give them my cell phone number in case they have to text you information, if you have one. If you don't, just put your office phone number. It doesn't matter. And then click sign up. Let me get those. Click sign up. Nowadays, within just a few hours, you should get an email back indicating that your account has been set up and giving you the login credentials for it. Your login ID will be your email, your district email address, complete address at sdccd.edu, and your password will be, they'll either provide you with a password or give you the directions on how to set one yourself. I don't know exactly how they're doing that these days. I've had my account for a while. But this will get you a full-blown Zoom professional account, just like the one I'm using right now to deliver this seminar. I'm using one of the Confer Zoom accounts right now. And it's everything you need. You can have up to 300 people in the meeting with you. Let's not mention that to the deans and administrators, okay? Anybody want to teach 300 students at a time? I don't think so. Let's get the union involved in that one if that comes up. But you'll have no meaningful limitations on using this. You can use it as often as you like, for as long as you like, for no extra cost to the state. The state just pays for the account, and you can use it as much as you like, and encourage you to do so. The more you use it, the better you'll get with it. Okay, now every now and then I am going to stop and ask you if there are any questions at this moment. Remember, you can unmute yourselves. Is there any question about how to get a Zoom Pro or Confer Zoom account?
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
This is Patricia.
Hi, Patricia.
Hello. I have the question of if I'm an adjunct and I work also at Southwestern College and I have my account there, do I need to set an account also at Miramar College?
Well, you could certainly use that account at any of your colleges because it's not paid for by the college, it's paid for by the state chancellor's office. So there'd be no problem using, say, the account that you got through Grossmont or wherever with students at Mesa or Miramar or whatever.
Okay.
You can request a separate account for each if you want to keep things separate, organized separately, but it's usually not necessary.
Thank you.
You bet. Good question. And right on topic. I appreciate that.
Hello, Dave.
Yes.
How do you get over 40 minutes?
Confer Zoom accounts do have no time limit on them. You can run meetings that will kill by their length. I have been online in some of these meetings for almost 6 hours at a time. I do not recommend it, but you can do it. There's no time limit on the Confer Zoom accounts, only on the free basic Zoom accounts, which anyone can get.
I want to get beyond the free basic. Is there a cost for that?
No. Just go to conferzoom.org and sign up.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Let's see. Trying to get in touch. All right. Sorry about that. Too many communications channels going at one time. Forgive me. Let me shut that one off. All right. So everybody who works for the California community colleges can have a free Zoom account through CCC Confer. So now you have a Zoom account. How can you use it? Well, the first thing we'll learn is how to start a Zoom meeting. There's actually several different ways to do that. I'm going to give you some hard-won advice that I discovered painfully at times on how to avoid major problems with Zoom. Aside from forgetting to record a session, which is my favorite trick, the other #1 crash landing with Zoom is having you end up in one Zoom meeting room, and there are, of course, thousands online at any given time. You end up in one room and your students end up in another, and you can't hear or see one another. That can happen. It's happened to me. It's happened probably to any of you who have used Zoom for any length of time. But there are some things you can do when you're starting a meeting to make it less likely that that is going to happen. My favorite way to do this is to make sure that I am always using what is called my Zoom personal meeting room. or personal meeting ID. To start a Zoom meeting, so that the access information for that meeting is always the same. Most of you used such a method to get into this Zoom meeting today. Mary Kingsley sent out an email with the schedule for this week, and she included in that meeting a link that you could click on and get dropped right into my meeting room, my personal meeting room. And looks like everybody got that to work. My goodness, what are we up to now? 50 folks in here. That's great. That's a near sure thing. So how do you do that? Well, there's a couple of different ways. You can access your Zoom account and manage it through the web by going to zoom.us. Just bring up a web browser, any web browser. Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Edge, any of them will work fine. And on the location line of the browser, type zoom.us. That's the URL or the web address for the Zoom corporate website where everything happens. So you just type that in and press enter, and you go to the Zoom website. Looks something like this. The graphics change all the time, but this stuff at the top here stays pretty much the same. And the first thing you'll have to do when you get here is to sign in so that you have access to your Zoom account. CCC Confer will provide, or Confer Zoom folks will provide you with the login information that you need. If you click sign in, you'll enter your email address as your user ID. Yours will be almost certainly be your district account at sdccd.edu or a Grossmont or Southwestern account or whatever. All work the same. The password should have been either given to you or you given an opportunity to set it. So you should know that as well. So you just put in your email address and your password and click sign in. It's not a bad idea to stay signed in. And click sign in. And you go to your Zoom account management screens. By default, you are taken to the meetings link. And there are other links over here, some of which we'll talk about today and some of which we won't worry about. But you want to make sure you're on the meetings page initially. And go to the personal meeting room link at the top of the page. This is my recommendation. This is not the only way to use Zoom, but it's the least troublesome way, I know. And I've been using Zoom almost since it was in early beta, close to 10 years now, I guess. So, and I've done everything wrong that you possibly can. So I'm just trying to share the pain or have you avoid the pain of that. Go to your personal meeting room link, just click on the word personal meeting room. Let me blow this up a little bit. Oh, that's a little too much, sorry. And let me move my Zoom window just a little bit. So in case you have some video windows over here, I'm not trying to show you things that are underneath that. Okay, so here's your personal meeting room. So what do you need to know here? Well, you need to know your personal meeting ID is useful. That's one way to get people into your meetings. I'd jot that down somewhere. That will not change as long as you're still using the same Zoom account. That will not change, ever. Like things that don't change without you knowing it. The other thing you might want to look at is the invite link. I've customized mine. That's something you can do, put your name in there. You don't have to do that. Yours will probably show a number here instead of a name like that. but it works fine either way. That invite link, you definitely want to know what it is, because that's what you're going to provide to your students in order to get them into your Zoom meetings, or that's the safest way to get them into your Zoom meetings. As long as you use your personal meeting room and you provide them with either the meeting ID or the invite link or both, they can get in, they will get into your correct meeting. All right. So the main trick here is to use your personal meeting room all the time. There was some fuss about this right after the things got real with the lockdowns and so on. Some, mostly kids around the world, figured out that they could crash Zoom meetings if they could find someone's personal meeting link, personal meeting room link, posted online publicly somewhere. And they would go in and they would be disruptive, called Zoom bombing. That's pretty much died down. You know, the attention span on that age group is pretty short. So they've pretty much given that up. Using your personal meeting room link does slightly increase your chance of being Zoom bombed. But I will tell you, I have done, especially over the last few months, I have done hundreds and hundreds of Zoom meetings. And over the years, thousands. And I have been Zoom bombed exactly one time. I had a visit from Dr. Hanky Panky in one of my meetings. I'd love to shake his hand someday. Notice I'm assuming it was a him. But there are things you can do to immediately rectify that situation. We'll talk about that a little later on. But the risk is minuscule. And the benefit is tremendous because you never have your students and you in different rooms. So you end up, not having a class because you couldn't find one another. If you use your personal meeting room all the time. So how do you do that? How do you start a meeting and make sure it's in your personal meeting room? Well, one way to do that is just to go to this page on the Zoom website and click into your personal meeting room, as I've done here. And if you're not in a meeting, this is a little hard to show you while I'm in a meeting because things look a little different. While you're if you're not in a meeting and you go into your personal meeting room, you will see a blue button that looks very much like this one here in the upper right. Everybody see that okay? Please let me know anytime I start talking about something and it seems like I'm expecting that you're seeing something and you can't see it, please let me know right away. Because believe it or not, as many times as I've used Zoom, I still mess up occasionally with it. You will too, so don't worry about it. Your students will usually help you out. It's a wonderful thing. But if I were not in a meeting, this would say Start Meeting. And I would just click on that button and a Zoom meeting would start in my personal meeting room. That's a sure thing. There are other ways to start Zoom meetings, however. You can just click Host a Meeting here on the Zoom website. But if you do that, if you haven't taken precautions, you can start a meeting in a randomly generated meeting room with a different join link and a different meeting ID. And your students may not be able to find you. You can also schedule meetings if you like in advance, though there's no particular need to do so because it's not like Zoom is some limited resource where you have to stake out a time to use Zoom. You can start a Zoom meeting at any time. So I seldom bother scheduling meetings in advance through this tool. You do, of course, have to let your students know when your meetings are. There are other ways to do that. But if you want to be sure that you use your personal meeting room exclusively, you can change a setting in your Zoom meeting settings. Those settings are found in this menu over here on the left under Settings. Let me blow that up a little more. Under Settings, just click the word Settings. And you want to be in Meeting Settings, which is the default. And if I scroll down, there are a couple of things you need to turn on. Notably, enable personal meeting ID. If you don't see your personal meeting room when you first start up, you have to turn this on. It's usually on, but you might have to turn that on. That creates your personal meeting room, but it's probably already there. The other two settings that you may want to change are these two. Use personal meeting ID, PMI, when scheduling a meeting. So if you use that scheduling tool, it will automatically schedule the meeting. If you have this turned on, you use that scheduling tool, it will automatically schedule the meeting in your personal meeting room. The second one you want to turn on is use personal meeting ID when starting an instant meeting, which is what you start if you just click host a meeting here, or if you use that start meeting button in your personal meeting room, that's an instant meeting, so-called. If you turn those on just by clicking on them, and blue is on. So just turn those two on, and once you do that, it's almost impossible to start a Zoom meeting without starting it in your personal meeting room. What was the dangerous word in that sentence?
Almost. Almost.
Almost, right. There is a way to do that and to end up in the wrong meeting room, potentially. That involves the use of what's called the Confer Zoom tool in Canvas. And I think I don't even have it in this menu here. No, I've taken it out of my menu because I don't like to use it, but let me put it back in just to show you what it looks like. It's here somewhere, probably way down at the bottom.
It's the first one, Dave.
It's on top.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There it is. Let me put that back in my course menu in Canvas and show you what that looks like. Here it is, Confer Zoom. It's in the course menu. If I click on that, it's a little convenience tool. It allows you to create Zoom meetings without having to leave Canvas. You can schedule meetings. You can quick launch. You can get your event recordings and so on here. But you can do all these things without this app, and quite well. Your students, of course, can also go here and find your Zoom meetings. And if you do that, if you use this consistently, then the students will end up in the same meeting room as you will. But every time you start a Zoom meeting through this tool, it uses a different meeting ID and a different join link. And if your students are the least creative in their accessing of Zoom, they may end up in the wrong meeting. Right? I see a lot of instances of people using this tool in Canvas and having their students end up in the wrong meeting room. So I just don't recommend using it. But that's up to you. It works as long as you use it religiously, consistently. It's fine. And you can start meetings from within that, as you saw. But you will not be using your personal meeting room. You'll be using a randomly generated meeting room. And if your personal meeting link is out there somewhere and your students have it saved and they try to use it, they'll end up in the wrong meeting. So just one person's opinion. So that's one way and one set of considerations to use when when starting a Zoom meeting. Another way to start a Zoom meeting is to use what's called your Zoom desktop client. And here's what that looks like. When the first time you enter a Zoom meeting or host a Zoom meeting and from a computer, either a PC or a Mac, Zoom automatically sends you what's called the Zoom meeting client, the little program that allows you to access Zoom meeting rooms. And this, it's installed automatically on your computer. And you can bring it back up at any time by just running an app called Start Zoom, which you'll find either in your course menu on Windows or your Start menu on Windows, or in a application icon at the bottom of your ribbon on a Mac. But that Start Zoom client can be started at any time. And when you're not in a meeting, this is another one of those instances where I can't show you exactly what this looks like because I'm in the meeting right now, and it knows that. But if you're not in the meeting, there will be 4 icons here instead of 2, and the one in the upper left-hand corner will say Start or New Meeting. And you can start a meeting from there. That's how I started this one today, was clicking on New Meeting and popped in. You all were already in there, which is great. So that's another way to start a Zoom meeting from your Zoom desktop client. Probably the most efficient way to start a Zoom meeting. And if you have set those options, as I mentioned, use personal meeting ID when scheduling a meeting, when starting an instant meeting, I should say, then you'll go right into your personal meeting room. So those are several different ways of starting a Zoom meeting, only one of which puts you at any significant risk of ending up in a meeting room different from that of your that your students are in. Okay, let me stop and ask if there are any questions about starting a Zoom meeting.
Dave, this is Ram Gurumurthy.
Hello.
Dave, I saw you showing the ID, the link, as well as the personal meeting ID room. What is the best way of putting this on Canvas for students?
Oh, that's a wonderful question, Ram.
Thank you.
And Ram and I know one another from years past, and I want to assure you we did not, because that's the perfect timing. That's the very next thing we're going to talk about.
Good. Thank you.
And Ram, I did not pay you to do that, did I? Thank you very much for asking such a timely question. That is exactly the next thing we're going to talk about. How do we provide the information that our students need to get into our personal meeting room? And by far the best way to do that is to provide them with the invite link, because that's everything they need to know. The meeting ID they can also use by just clicking. They can go to the Zoom website and click Join a Meeting, and they just type in the meeting ID, or they can do the same thing from their mobile device. Indeed, Zoom works wonderfully from smartphones or tablets, and they can join a meeting that way. But if you use the meeting ID, if for whatever reason there's a password on the meeting, then the student also has to have the password and has to enter it separately. If you assign a password to a Zoom meeting, that password can be embedded, hashed encoded into the Zoom invite link so that the student doesn't have to enter it separately. So the invite link is generally the best way to get students into your Zoom meetings. How can you provide that to them? Well, you can do something as simple as copy that to your clipboard. Right-click, copy it to your clipboard, either in either on PC or Mac, and then go to your email client. Let's see. All right, where are you? There it is. The standard is Outlook. Send it to whomever. So you could send it back to Mary. Subject, Zoom meeting, right? And then you can just paste that in and send the email. You might provide a little more information, like when the meeting is, would be good, as Mary did to you earlier today. And then just send that. That's one way to get that information to your students. So you can use either your personal email or your inbox tool in Canvas to send a message to the students that has the link in it, along with the time and duration or probable duration of the meeting. Works. But that means you got to send it out every time. You can also, of course, go into Canvas and use the announcements tool to send a meeting invitation. And just paste that same URL into there. And then all the students can see the announcements. You could also create a page. I'm not going to send that. You could also create a page and say your Getting Started module. And you could put, here I've already done that, you can create a an external URL link, and you can, in the URL box, you can paste that your Zoom join URL, and I think that's the third time I've done this in this course. You do, in that event, want to load that in a new tab for sure, so that it's not in the middle of all the other Canvas stuff. Add that item. And all the student has to do to get to your Zoom personal meeting room is to click on that link at the right time and allow that to open in a new window. And boom, they're on their way. And you saw this same dialogue. I can't join my meeting, I'm already in it. But they just click here and they'd be dropped right into the meeting, just as you were today. So that's a sure thing. They can't lose that. Alternately, you can create in your course menu a link to your personal meeting room. You can see I've already done that a couple of times here. I'll do it again just to show you how it's done. You go to, in Canvas, you go to your settings link in your course, and this has to be done course by course. And you go to the Apps tab in the settings page on Canvas and click Installed, so you don't have to sort through a million apps that we don't use. You'll get a shorter list that way. And what you're looking for is this swooshy blue arrow here that's called the Redirect tool. If you click on that, you can add this app to your course. And the purpose of this app is to create links in your course menu to content outside of Canvas, so-called external content. So I just click that app, add app, And for in the URL redirect box, I just paste that my invite link, my join link for my personal meeting room. And then I change the name from Redirect Tool, which is not going to mean anything to your students, to Zoom PM. I'm just going to call it Zoom PMR. You'd probably make it a little more, do something different. But I've done this so many times, I'm having to come up with original ways to label this. You'll also want to make sure that this shows in course navigation, so it shows up in the course menu. And then just add the app. If I refresh my screen, and as somebody had a question about this the other day, said, well, I did all that and it didn't show up in my course menu. Well, it won't show up in your course menu until you refresh the screen or log out and log back in. Log out of Canvas and log back in. And there it is down at the bottom, the Zoom PMR. And the students can click on that link, open in a new tab, and they'll go right into your personal meeting room. So hard for them to not know how to get into your Zoom meetings that way. You do, of course, have to let them know when your meetings are going to take place. You would probably do that, or you could do that in Canvas by just posting a Zoom schedule in your startup module. Or you could post a link to a Zoom meeting in each module, or more than one, just so as to provide them with the dates and times of your meetings. You can also put that sort of information in the calendar. I always wonder if Canvas is going to bring up the calendar or crash. If I want to have a Zoom meeting on the 13th of August, I can just click there, event, Zoom meeting, date that from, say, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. or whatever. Oh, I made that 2 a.m., didn't I? Not a good idea. 1,400 hours. (2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Location, Zoom. Submit. So that's another way you can provide your students with times and dates for your Zoom meetings. Just do remember to do that. Ask me how I know that. It's easy to forget.
Dave, I have a question. It's Annie Zucker.
Yes.
How do you set up a recurring meeting? I'm going to have to set one up for the whole semester every Monday, a certain time slot, 9 to 12.
You could just post that as an announcement to your students, and put a page in your Canvas module that says we're going to meet on Zoom every Monday at 2 o'clock. That's all. You don't have to schedule those meetings in advance. Zoom's going to be there anyway. So all you have to do is tell your students when to be there. You can schedule them if you like, but it's time that you don't have to spend. Just let your students know. And of course, I have to put it on my calendar too, or I forget. But there's no secret to that. Good question.
I have made the Canvas the home page, made the announcement right on the home page.
Yes.
Every Wednesday, and here is the link, and they'll add from 12 to 1, and that's why I've never missed any students catching.
Excellent.
Okay, Dave, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm on the right track here when she brought up the question about recurring meetings. So
Yeah.
let's say you have a class here that meets every Tuesday, Thursday at 11. Basically, you just, as long as the students know the time, right, of the course,
That's right.
and you provide them with either the invite link or the meeting ID, depends on you. You never have to schedule a meeting for the rest of the semester.
No, no.
Okay.
All you have to do is remember to start it.
Right. Okay.
You know, that's the hard part when you
Yeah.
get to my age, especially.
Yeah.
And I see some of you out there who may have that challenge as well.
Okay.
But no, you can always start a Zoom meeting at the drop, you know, just like that. You don't have to schedule them in advance. It's just extra work. But you do have to let your students know, and that strategy with the announcements and setting up your Canvas homepage so that under course details, if you scroll to the bottom of the page and select more options, there's an option to show recent announcements on your course homepage, and you can set how many recent announcements. So you can have those announcements appear automatically to the students when they enter the Canvas course. And that's a good strategy. Just remember to update the details after you make that change. And mine's set up that way. I think I set that up here. Yeah, here you can see the 3 most recent announcements in this course at the top of the screen when you enter it. You do have to have a front page set up. This won't work if you're sending your students directly to your modules in Canvas. But that's another seminar. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Let's get back to Zoom today. Good questions. Thank you for keeping them on topic. Let's see, where am I now? So that's how you can get your students into your meetings. So let's say you've been successful and everybody, you're in there in the Zoom meeting. Now, what do? Well, you manage the Zoom meeting using the Zoom menus at the bottom. They typically show up at the bottom of your Zoom screen, as you see in mine. We've already talked about how, you know, the difference between just talking to your students and sharing your screen, and the difference between speaker view and gallery view. So those are all things that come into play at this point. But beyond that, how do you manage your Zoom meeting? Through these icons at the bottom of the screen. Well, we've already talked about muting and unmuting yourself. You just click again to mute or unmute yourself. But there is also a menu, and we're going to go a little deeper into the weeds here on this. There's a menu associated with audio, with this audio icon, which is accessed using this little up caret here, this right on the shoulder of the microphone icon. If you click that, left click on a PC, or just click on a mouse or a Mac mouse, you get a menu. So what's this menu do for you? Well, should you be an AV enthusiast and you have multiple microphones attached to your computer, you can select which one to use. Usually that's not an issue, but if nobody's hearing you in a meeting, this is the first place to look. It's possible that something like line in might have been selected by accident. Or sometimes, I swear to God, Zoom just seems to have a mind of its own. And that ends up getting selected. You want to make sure that you're using the right microphone by just selecting it by clicking on it. But probably that's not going to be an issue. You can tell if you're broadcasting. If you look closely at my little microphone down here, you can see a little green bar rising up in it. That's a little audio meter that's telling me that I'm transmitting sound. So I know at least it's going out. I don't know for sure you're hearing it, but I know it's going out. In order to be sure that you can hear it, of course, you have to have speakers or a speaker on your device that you're accessing the meeting from, either a computer or a smartphone or a tablet. The smartphone and the tablets have speakers built in. The computer, maybe not. You have to have a pair of speakers connected, and they have to be functioning in order for you to hear the voices of your attendees. And it's possible to have more than one output device on your computer, and you need to make sure you've got the right one selected. I'm using my Amazon Echo as a speaker because it's got a good speaker in it. I just have to be very careful not to say, you know what. I can't say her name. Thank God nobody in this meeting seems to be named Alexa. I'm just waiting for her to stop listening. Okay. Looks like I'm all right.
I don't know that.
Nope. I didn't wait long enough. Okay. So you got to select the right speaker. To be sure that everything's right, you have an option to test speaker and microphone. If you hear that tone, then your speakers are working, and Zoom knows where they are. You've got the right one selected. You say yes. And then you just speak. And if Zoom sends that back to you, then you know your microphone is working as well. So you can do that very quickly at the beginning of a meeting and make sure that your microphone and speakers are working properly with Zoom. You can always, it is in addition to, of course, using computer audio, as we're doing, most of you are probably doing right now, that is the audio on your computing device, be it a computer or a smartphone or a tablet, so-called voice over IP audio. You can also use a telephone, speakerphone for audio, and you can dial into a series of numbers and get the audio portion of the meeting that way and speak back. It bridges the audio from your phone into the meeting. There are a series of phone numbers that you can use for that. Note that none of those numbers are toll-free. They're all long distance numbers for us, so some longer than others. I think 301 is Manhattan, if I remember correctly. That's something you want to think about before you recommend that your students use the audio this way. They better have an unlimited long distance plan if they're going to join the Zoom meeting audio. Far better they have a computer or a mobile device that has a speaker built into it so they don't have to use their telephone for audio. But that is an option. And then we have an audio settings menu. There's not a whole lot that you'd probably want to change there. There is one option you may want to pick under audio settings, though, and that is a mute setting. If you check this box here that says press and hold space key to temporarily unmute yourself, then the space bar on your computer becomes equivalent to the push to talk button on a walkie-talkie. You can unmute yourself by just pushing down the space bar and holding it. And as long as you hold it down, you're unmuted and you can talk. And then when you're done talking, you can just let it up and you don't have to go and click the little icon down here. So that's a useful setting. There's not a whole lot else here that you need to worry about. Okay, that's one icon. There was a lot under that icon. The next icon, starting from the left here, is the video icon. This allows you to turn your webcam on and off. Right now, I have my webcam, or I have what amounts to my webcam on. I can turn that off by just clicking that little camera icon. Then a red slash appears through the camera, and you see my profile picture, whatever I've uploaded to my Zoom account as a profile picture. In this case, my alter ego, Bullwinkle J. Moose. And then I can restart the camera just by clicking on that icon again. So that's how you can turn your video on and off. There is also a video settings window or menu that you can access through this similar little up caret to the one we saw with audio. Zoom, very usefully sometimes, can use multiple webcams. If you have more than one webcam attached to your computer, you can switch between them using Zoom. Right now I'm using something called Blackmagic Design as my webcam, which is actually a little professional video switcher. That's why you're able to see the birds behind me and things like this. More common would be just a basic webcam like this one. Here I am, the other side. And you can have multiples. You could even have a camera on something else and pull that up in the middle of a meeting and show it to your students. I'll talk more about the IPVO camera in a moment. Epoch Cam is an app that you load on a smartphone and a driver that you load on a computer that allows you to use a smartphone as a as a webcam. I'm not going to go into that in detail right now. If you have questions about it, I'll answer them later. The advantage to this is almost every one of your students will have a smartphone. Some of them may have a hard time getting a webcam. You may have a hard time getting a webcam. They've been out of stock on and off for months for obvious reasons, and they can be hard to come by. You can use your smartphone in lieu of a webcam, and it actually works quite well. So that's another option. Something that we also cover, and I'll be happy to come back to this later. I don't really have time to do it justice right now, but there is an option to create a virtual background so that instead of seeing my messy studio behind me, you would see a still image or a short video showing behind me. I don't know how this is going to work here because I don't have my green screen. Well, this is probably not going to work. Tell it I don't have a green screen. Try that. Well, it didn't work too badly. It's not perfect, but it works. So you can put a virtual background behind yourself, which is interesting, but not tremendously instructional unless you make your virtual background something like a PowerPoint slide, which you can do. You can upload images that you create and put yourself in front of them like this. It's a technique called chroma key, and it's fun. We do a lot more with that in the intermediate Zoom meeting. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with that. I'm going to turn this off right now because I don't want it to screw up other things I'm doing. Okay, so that's all in the video window. You also have a video settings menu that you can access where you can change things about your video. Probably, the one I like is touch up my appearance. Unfortunately, it doesn't do a whole heck of a lot of good. I'm afraid I'm hopeless, but you could give it a try. So not going to worry too much about that in most cases. All right, let's move right along. We're at 3:15. We've got 45 minutes left and miles to go before we sleep. The next icon you encounter, and let me go back to my other video there so you can see the birds. There we go. That switcher looks to Zoom like a webcam. So Zoom can take input from all sorts of different kinds of things, like a computer, another camera, so on. But that's definitely an advanced technique. The next icon we'll talk about is the security icon. And it was added relatively recently to deal with things like Zoom bombing. If I click on that security icon, I see some things that I can turn on and off very quickly in the event that someone tries to disrupt a meeting. I can lock the meeting so that nobody who's not in already can get in. I can enable a waiting room, which is like a church vestibule. You walk in before you walk into the sanctuary. And in this case, though, the doors to the sanctuary are locked and only you as the host can let somebody into the main meeting. You can do it en masse with everybody at one time. It's a way to prevent people who you don't recognize from getting into your Zoom meetings. I don't find it especially useful because I have people dropping in and out of meetings all day long. And I don't want to have to stop every 5 minutes and let somebody else in. So I don't use it, but it is an option that you can do. But you do then have to manually admit your attendees to your meeting, which just seems like a lot of trouble to me. Then you have a series of things, of capabilities that you can give your participants, your attendees, your students, or not. You can allow them to share their screen. I've got that checked here, so you all could share your screens, though you can't share your screen when I, as the host, am sharing mine. I control that. And indeed, even if I do have this checked, if somebody else starts trying to share their screen when I'm just talking and I don't have mine shared, I can then just share my screen quickly and I'll bump them off as the host, as long as your settings are left at the defaults on that. So there's no particular risk to allowing people to share their screens, though in some cases you'll find that this is turned off automatically and you have to enable it for people to be able to share their screens with you. The reason for that, of course, being that somebody could come in and show unpleasant images before you could shut them down. There have been some fairly hair-raising examples of that. I haven't heard about it so much lately, but for a while there, people were getting off on doing things like that. So not sharing your screen and not allowing your participants to share their screens until you're ready for them to do it is a perfectly reasonable security choice. You can also shut off the chat tool. People can get into the chat tool and paste and post nasty things. But don't shut it off unless you absolutely have to. You can prevent people from renaming themselves. All these little names that you see here, people can rename themselves. And some of those names can get fairly creative and unpleasant. So you can stop them from doing that just by clicking that and turn it off if you need to. You can prevent people from unmuting themselves. You mute them and I want to hear from you. Don't do that unless you absolutely have to, because the great beauty of Zoom is being able to communicate naturally, almost as well, and in some ways better than you can do in a face-to-face classroom. If I have a student who's soft-spoken and sits in the back of the room, I probably won't be able to hear them at my age. But I can hear you all just fine because I can crank my speakers up until I can hear you. I love having the control over that. So, and you can also prevent them from doing what is called annotating shared content. Looks like somebody may have actually tried to do a little bit of that here. I just noticed. It is possible while I'm sharing my screen to draw pictures on the screen. Let me wake up my control bar here, bring my Zoom control bar or my share control bar over. This is, again, something I see only when I'm sharing my screen, and I had it pulled off onto another monitor, so it wasn't in your way, but I can bring it back over, and there's an Annotate button. I can click that, and I can select Draw, and I can draw pictures on the screen. And that can be distracting if somebody just starts doing things like that. Of course, I can clear that very quickly, but I can also prevent people from doing that to start with by leaving that option unchecked in the security icon. You'll find I probably shouldn't tell you this, but while I'm sharing my screen, you will see at the top of your screens a little button labeled View Options. And in that View Options menu is an option to bring up this Annotation Tool. And as long as I've given you the right to do that, you can start drawing pictures on my screen. And then if that happens and you don't want that to happen, you can just go to the security thing and uncheck that option, and then they won't be able to do that. If someone is disrupting your meeting, you can probably tell who it is by bringing up the Participants tool, which is the next tool that I was going to talk about here in the menu, this icon right here. This tool shows you who's in your meeting. Bunch of people right now. 54. Gosh, we're going up instead of down. Y'all need to get a life. Sitting here in a Zoom meeting with me on 3:30 on what's a beautiful afternoon up here anyway. But I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking one for the team. There are all those folks. I can see who's muted. That's what the little camera, the microphone with a slash through it shows. I can see who's got their video turned on. And if somebody's talking, I can see who it is. That you see my microphone there, the little thing, the bar bouncing up and down, and I can scroll up and down here and see if anybody else is talking. And if I'm the only one supposed to be talking, or if somebody's trying to disrupt my meeting, I can see who it is. And I can see that Rati is recording the meeting, which is great. I gave her that capability. But I can see all sorts of things about what people are doing in my meeting. And if I see somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing, I can just mouse over them, click More, and remove them from the meeting. If I do that, they will not be able to come back into this meeting. So you can get rid of someone who's being disruptive pretty easily. And you don't have to explain it to your dean or go get permission or whatever. You can just boot them right out, and they won't be coming back into this meeting. And you'll know who they were probably by looking at the Participants tool. We already talked about how to use the Participants tool to mute everyone. You can also select individual folks and chat with them privately. You can ask them to start their video, but that's all you can do. You can ask. You can't make them do it. You can make someone the host and give up. You know, if you have a visiting lecturer, you want to make them the host, you can do that. You can make them a co-host, which gives them most of the capabilities, but not that you have, but not all. You can allow someone to record. You can assign someone to take notes or to type closed captions. You can rename someone. You can boot them back into the meeting room. You can remove them from the course or from the meeting, and you can report them to Zoom. And Zoom will have some idea who they were from their IP address and so on. So all things you can do in the Participants tool. Hopefully, most of those things you won't need to do. Polling is a neat thing that you can do where you can put questions up on the screen and have your attendees answer them and then tabulate the results and show them to them. We don't really have time for that, to deal with that right now. That's an intermediate technique that we cover in our intermediate Zoom session, but they're fun. The chat tool we've already alluded to. If I click on the chat tool, a little chat window pops up, which I can share with you. And you can use this for back channel communications. And I'll check this when we get done here and make sure that all the questions that were put in the chat tool are answered. They will at least become a part of the, my wife is just, sorry about that. My wife has just put the shades down so she can watch our home theater in the other room, and that cut my camera off. But here you're seeing my computer, another computer screen I have behind me. That's got some birds in it too, even though they're not moving around. Okay, but anyway, you can chat during the meeting. All you have to do to send a chat message is click type message, click in the type message, the box labeled type message here, and just type a message and press the enter or return key on your keyboard, and the message will appear here. And it will either appear for everyone, or you can send messages to people privately. You can pass notes in class, and yes, your students can do that too. Let me see what I've got here. Well, there's another view of me from the back side. Oh God, I'm not sure I want that. Oh well. Okay, so there's the chat tool, pretty simple. Share screen is probably the single most button in this whole, important button in this whole menu. That's what allows you to share your screen with your students. You do that by just clicking on this share screen button, and a white window pops up with a white background that allows you to choose what you want to share. You can share your iPhone or your iPad screen if it's linked to your computer. You can share individual applications. There's my video switcher console. But what I recommend you do strongly if you're sharing your screen is to take the default, the screen one or desktop in the upper left-hand corner of the options. This shares your computer, whatever's on your computer monitor, with your students. Whatever you see on your computer, they will see. And they will see it in just as high a quality as you're seeing it. So even fine print is easy to see if they squint at the screen. So this way, no matter what you bring up on your screen, even if you switch between applications, your students will see exactly what you're seeing. So I strongly recommend you select that option. It should probably already be selected. The blue highlight is the selection. There are a couple of options here. If you're going to be playing videos and sharing those with your students, which you can quite easily do, you can play a YouTube video and your students can see it and hear it just about as well as you can, as long as your internet connection's pretty decent. If you're going to do that, though, you have to select the option to share your computer sound, which is the sound coming through your speakers on your computer. And the students, in order for the students to hear the video, you're going to have to have that selected. If the video has a lot of motion in it, or some of your students saying, well, you know, the video's kind of halting and is a little blurry and so on, you can optimize screen sharing for a video clip as well. But don't use that unless you need to, unless somebody complains probably, because that can cause other things to be a little blurry, like text and things like that. So it's better generally to leave that unchecked unless you need it. And once you've got those selections made, you just click the blue share button in the lower right-hand corner, which actually activates the share. Up to now, you've just been preparing to share. But clicking this blue button labeled share in the lower right-hand corner will then send your video to your students, just as I'm doing with you right now. So it's real simple. And then, of course, you'll get this share toolbar that we've already seen a few times. And at any time, you can stop the share and just talk to your students. And then share again when needed. Now I'm sharing my screen again. So it's a little hard for you to tell that I did that because I have my Zoom settings set so that you can see my Zoom screens. And, but I did cycle the screen share there. Recording, I'm going to come back to in a minute. Breakout rooms are individual rooms, like mini meetings that you can send your students to work on a group project, and then bring them back into the main room to have them talk about what they did. That's another intermediate aspect of Zoom that we cover in our intermediate Zoom meeting, but that should be available. That is available to you in your Zoom, Confer Zoom Pro accounts. I don't have to worry about reactions. Then there's the more. Finally, there's the more option in the menu. And the main thing you can do there is stream live to the internet. You say, well, I thought I was doing that anyway. Well, you are, if you're hosting your own Zoom meeting. And anybody who joins that Zoom meeting, and remember, you can have up to 300 people in this meeting. Anyone who joins that meeting can talk back to you and interact with you directly in a two-way interaction, real time. This option gives you a way to broadcast your Zoom meeting either through Facebook or YouTube for free, so that you can reach an unlimited number of people anywhere in the world. So if you were hosting a Zoom meeting that was going to be attended by thousands of people across the state of California or across the world, you could do it live on YouTube. They would not be able to talk back to you like you all can to me, but they would be able to see and hear everything that you were doing, including your shared screens, just as well as somebody who actually joined the Zoom meeting. And there's even a chat tool provided in each case where they can send a message back to you. So if you get yourself into a situation where you need more than 300 seats in your Zoom meeting, you can live stream. I'm not going to go into that. Again, the details of that are in the are more of an intermediate thing, but that is an available option, and it's free. Let's see. All right, so that pretty much covers the Zoom menus. Any questions about any of those Zoom menu options?
Yeah.
Remember yes.
For the video and the sound. So we just tried having a Zoom thing for our art department to talk to our faculty, and we got bombed really bad. So I just want to see, as far as video and sound, is there a way to only allow a few people, like our faculty, to be able to turn their videos on, or is it just all or none? Does that make sense?
Oh, you mean to be able to turn their video on, their video cameras on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wanted to have because we invited students, but we wanted to open it up to potential students.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So the way that the faculty member who set it up, she said it was either all or none, but that's the thing I'm trying to figure out, because in case we ever need to do something like that again, like limiting to 5 people being able to talk and have their video going, but have everyone else off. Is that an option at all, or
to have their video off? Huh? No, you can ask them to start the video, but you can't really turn their video off.
Okay. And the other thing too is that name change thing. The name change thing, that's another huge thing we had an issue with.
Yeah. Now that you can turn off in the security menu.
And I didn't even know that existed at the time, but the person got in there and started, they'd go in and say that they were you. They'd write in your name, and then we delete you instead of deleting the person, because then they switch over to somebody else. So if you guys don't know about that, I would highly recommend. That just caused so much chaos. for us.
Well, that brings up a point about your personal meeting or any meeting ID. Is that you announce those on a public forum.
Yeah.
At your peril.
Yeah.
When you do that, you vastly increase the likelihood of having people trying to break in.
For the people we wanted to reach, though, that's really the only option we have.
Yeah, I hear you. So in that case, pretty much you have to deal with the miscreants one at a time using the participants window.
Okay.
And you can see who's sharing, who's doing things.
Yeah.
Who's
Another
talking
thing
when they
too,
shouldn't.
if someone's made a co-host, can they kick people out? Because
Yes. Yeah, you can make a colleague a co-host, so you didn't have to deal with that.
Okay.
That's a good.
Well,
that's a
I
good idea.
I was supposed to be a co-host, so I could, and I didn't have that access. So it must have been something they set up and it didn't do it right because I couldn't kick them out. I could see them, but I couldn't. So I just wanted to check.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, an interesting situation. And I understand why you had to do it in that case, but generally you don't want to share your personal meeting ID or any meeting ID on a public forum.
Yeah.
Or you do have that happen sometimes.
And then
I'll think about that. And I'll try to think about that and see if there's anything else you could have done.
Okay. It might be for a different meeting, but would webinar be the thing that would solve that then? Because that has more.
No, not so much. Not so much.
Okay.
One thing you can do to shut down people very quickly is to mute them all. And then you can share your screen. And when you share your screen, no one else can bump you off.
They did it in their. They didn't share screen at all. They just had their camera going.
Yeah. Well, if you share your screen, that's going to prevent their cameras probably from showing up. So then, of course, they can't see you as well either. Though generally, when you share your screen, there'll be a little set of video thumbnails. Your attendees will see a set of video thumbnails on the right-hand side of the screen over here. And the person who's talking usually appears at the top of that. So they could probably still see and hear you, even if you were sharing your screen. So that would be another possible strategy. And I'll see if I can see if anything else suggests itself here as we're going along. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, let's see where I am. I'm still sharing my screen, so you're seeing this. Okay, recording. That's where we are. Nice to have an outline when you get to be my age. How do you record your Zoom meetings? Well, there is a record button in your Zoom. As the host, you'll have a record button down here in the Zoom menus. It won't look like this because I'm currently in the middle of recording, so I can pause a recording or I can stop it. That's a useful thing to know. If you want to do something like say something that you don't want included in the recording, you can pause the recording. Now we've started the recording again, and whatever I said is not recorded, nor anything that was on the screen at that time. Only that time is recorded. And then I can stop this recording at any time and then start it up later and start another recording later if that's appropriate. But how do I get the recording started in the first place? Well, I just click the button labeled record in the Zoom menus. There are two possible destinations for your recordings. You can either record to the Zoom cloud, or you can record to your local computer. They both have their advantages. Recording to the Zoom cloud is really simple. You just click record, and if indeed with a Confer Zoom account, if you haven't changed a setting, that's your default option. If you click record, it's going to go to the Zoom cloud. It's going to go to Zoom's servers. And that recording will automatically be sent there. It's exceptionally reliable. The quality is quite good. And when you finish your meeting, the recording will be there within a relatively few minutes. And you can get a link to that recording that you can share with your students so they can view it later. So that's the simple way to do Zoom recording. To find your Zoom recordings, you can go to your Zoom management screens, as we have seen before, at zoom.us and sign in. And there's a recordings link on this website where you can go and you can find all of the recordings that you've sent to the Zoom cloud. I don't use it very much, so I've just got a few here. To view one of the recordings, you just click on the topic link. You get some information about the recording. If you click this little record or play button here, you'll see the actual recording. This is one that a faculty member sent me. The recording is quite good quality. It also comes with a transcript for the audio for hearing impaired students and potentially with closed captions. Or it will have closed captions. And the closed captions are created automatically. So you don't have to do anything to make that happen. And they're generally quite good. The automatic captioning in the Zoom cloud is excellent. If there's an error somewhere, like a technical term or something, you can go over here to your transcript and click on the caption where actually click on the little edit icon, the little pencil, and you can edit these captions and correct them at need, though there generally won't be much of that needed. And then save the results, and they reflect it automatically. The captions appear at some point after your meeting. They won't be there immediately. But as soon as the video is available online, Zoom will send you an email telling you that the video's up and giving you the link to the video. And later, when the captions are available, it'll send you another email telling you the captions are there. So you know when the video is ready in that regard. And this all works quite nicely. There really aren't a lot of downsides to using the Zoom cloud for your recordings. You do have a limited amount of space, but it's quite large. So it'll be a while before you run out of space in your Zoom cloud recording area. Also, the quality of the video is a little bit higher when you record to your local computer. But it's generally not a factor unless you're sharing a lot of screens with very small print. And indeed, when you record Zoom, you not only record the video and the audio as you're talking back and forth, but you also record any screens that you share in full quality so that students can see what you're talking about later. I'm doing that right now. That's a technique called screencasting, where you record what's on your computer screen in motion and your voice at the same time. And Zoom, when you're recording a Zoom session, you are screencasting. If you share your screen, you're screencasting. It's a great way to create instructional videos for your students. Indeed, you can start a Zoom meeting with no one else in it and record it. Share your screen and record that, and your students will be able to see whatever you're doing on the screen later and play it back later. And all they have to have is the link to the video. They can get that link from right here where it says copy shareable link. That copies it to the clipboard. Then you can just go to Canvas, say, and to one of your modules. And you can put a Zoom video link right into your module as an external URL. Paste that Zoom video link into there. I'll just call this Zoom, and we have to give it a name. We'll call it Zoom video. You must, if you're doing this with a Zoom video, load the external URL in a new tab, a new browser screen. Otherwise, it won't play. Click Add Item. Now your students can access that video just by clicking on that link and opening a new window, and bada boom, there's the video. So that's all pretty straightforward, easy, requires very little extra effort on your part, and gives your students access to your Zoom recordings.
David, question on that topic.
You bet.
When I record my Zoom session and I park it in a page for a student to access later on, which I do that quite often, how do I know how many students or which student access that recording?
Which students have seen that recording?
Yes.
Or accessed it at least.
Yes.
You can get that from your Canvas analytics. I tell you what, can you hold that thought? Because that's a Canvas question. And I'll be happy to answer that, but I want to make sure we get through all the Zoom stuff first, okay? And there is a way to tell. Okay, right, so recording to the Zoom cloud is a no-brainer. You can also record to your local computer. To do that, you have to change a setting in Zoom. Go back to that settings link and go to the recording link on that page, and you have to allow local recording. This has to be turned on. It used to be they had that turned off by default in the Confer Zoom accounts. I don't know if they're still doing that or not, but you might, to get the option to record to your local computer, you might go here. Why would you bother? Well, it gives you a little more control over your recordings. They don't go up to a cloud that you have relatively little control over. You can take that video and you can put it on YouTube, and you get a little bit better video quality if you do that. You also can do some of the tricks that you can do with YouTube, which we don't have time to go into right here. So there are some reasons to do that. But even better right now is that, or as of now, you can send your Zoom recordings to Canvas Studio. We're going to be talking about Canvas Studio in great detail on Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m. I urge you, or either to try it yourself or come to that session. We're going to be training this pretty heavily. It's a brand new video repository and tool that we just got access to last week. You can replace YouTube with Canvas Studio, basically. And if I want to put my Canvas or my Zoom recording up on YouTube, or excuse me, up on Canvas Studio, all I have to do is add a video, browse my files, find my Zoom meeting recordings, which will be on my local computer, will be in my documents directory in a folder called Zoom. And in my case, a whole bucket load is the word I'm looking for, of subfolders which contain all the Zoom recordings that I've made on this computer. I can open, they're dated and timed so you can tell which one is which. And you can just open it up, open that subfolder up, and there's your Zoom recording. Zoom, this is a bad one to check. That's actually got two. More explanation than I want to give. How about this one? There, that's your Zoom recording. It's always labeled zoom_0.mp4, almost always. You just select that and click open. and the video is uploaded to Canvas Studio. It'll take a little while. And once you upload it, you can request captions for it as well, and it will caption it. And you'll also be able to get a link to share the video just by clicking the little menu here and click Share Media. You get both a link and an embed code for that medium that you can put into Canvas. We're going to be covering this in a lot more detail in our Canvas Studio session on Thursday, and then the following week we have an adding video to Canvas session where we'll cover this in great detail. But all of you, by virtue of having Canvas accounts right now, have access to Canvas Studio, and I hope you'll get started playing with that as soon as you can. Oh, lots of stuff. Let's see. Recording. We've already talked about the Zoom meeting security. Everything we've talked about with Zoom so far has shown, I think, how easy it is to replicate the classroom experience in a Zoom meeting. You can do, as I said early on, just about anything that you can do in the classroom on Zoom except smell with students. But there's one thing that I haven't addressed yet, one thing that you would probably do in the classroom while lecturing that we have not seen a way to duplicate in Zoom. Anybody want to take a flyer as to what that is? What do you have hanging on the wall in your classroom? Almost certainly. That you probably use every lecture.
Whiteboard?
A whiteboard. Thank you. Very good. If I had a prize, I'd give it to you. Thank you. Your whiteboard. How do you replace that experience? Well, this is where having that little thing behind me comes in handy. I don't have this fully set up yet. I just hooked this up just before this meeting, but let me see if I can zoom in here. Get myself out of the way. On this little gomer. Right there. That thing right, I got too many figures here. That thing right there, sorry about the, let me see if I can clean it, but that thing right there is a so-called USB document camera. Yes. Oh, you're not seeing it. Excuse me. Excuse me. I have to stop my share for you to see that. And you need, it will be best if you go into speaker view. That's something worth doing. In the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom screen, there's a little button. If you're not already in speaker view, click that, and you should now see my document camera right here. This little thing right here. It can be, everything's turned backwards, so it's a little, that's it. That's the document camera right there. It just plugs into a USB port on your computer, and it's designed to provide you with something like a whiteboard. Except all I have to have is this camera and a piece of paper or a legal pad or whatever. Most document cameras come with a piece of software, and there I've just put a piece of paper underneath it. Most document cameras come with a piece of software that will allow you to pull whatever the camera sees up on your computer screen. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again now so that you can see what I'm doing on the computer. I can run this piece of software. In the case of this camera, this is from a company called IPVO. I have no idea what that stands for. but IPEVO. And there's a piece of software that comes with it that you have to download called the IPEVO Visualizer. If I run that software, it will bring up on my computer screen that you are currently seeing. Of course, I agree. Whatever that camera is seeing. In this case, after a minute, my legal pad. But unfortunately, everything is upside down. If I write on this, it's upside down. Well, the software will allow me to invert that. Make that a little bigger. Using this tool here, I can just invert it. And now, whatever I write here, you see. Not only can you write like you can on a whiteboard, but you can draw symbols, mathematical symbols.
Dave,
Yes.
a question for you. Is that program available to us, or does that just come with the document camera? Because I ordered, actually I ordered my own. And the other thing I've heard from folks that we can get document cameras from our AV departments, correct? Question mark?
In some cases, yes, they have some to loan.
Okay. Okay. And then
not everyone, but
not everyone.
Yeah.
Here's my other question for you then. So that IPEVO, did that come with the document camera, or did that?
The software?
Yeah.
It's a piece of software that only works with this brand of document camera.
Okay.
And
cool.
it doesn't come with it. You have to download it from their website.
Got you.
Because they're saving money. They're too cheap to send you a CD, which is a little irritating because the entry-level model of this document camera costs $100. You think they could send you a flipping CD with the software on it.
Okay.
But no, you have to download it, but it is free. The software won't do you any good if you don't have the camera.
Right, but you have to have that camera. You have, is what I'm saying to you, right? Every camera is going to have its own program, correct?
Correct.
Cool.
Though IPEVO is by far the most commonly used document camera.
Great.
And some of the other ones from China can be iffy.
Okay.
So I strongly recommend the IPEVO cameras if you can get them.
Okay.
You can get them on Amazon when they're in stock. And anything that this camera sees, be it what you're writing on a tablet or a three-dimensional object, a page in a book. Looking to see if I have a book here. Yeah. Put a book down there and share that, just like you can with a document camera in your classroom. And it just gives you that extra dimension of capability that you would lack without it. You can improvise using your smartphone as a document camera. And we have some tutorials to show you how that will work. But if somebody's interested in that, I can go into it in more detail. But we do have some tutorials on how to do that. But the document camera itself works a lot better. Yes, Ken.
That was my question in this chat when you got a chance on how to use it.
I will go into that in more detail when we get done with so that I haven't left anything out about Zoom for the folks who need to go.
Okay.
Okay. But remember, I will stay here and answer questions as long as you have them. You can go for the world's record if you like. So far, it's 5 hours and 50 minutes in one of these sessions. But I don't think anybody's recovered from that yet. I know I haven't. But I will answer questions as long as you have them. Let me see. So the IPEVO document camera is an exceptionally good thing to have. It's worth the investment. The entry-level model is about $100 if you can get it. We can take a quick look here and see if Amazon has it today. Just search for IPEVO is the name of the company. IPEVO document camera. Nuts. That's the one you want, the bestseller. That's the $100 one, but it doesn't look like it's currently in stock. Some of these, the IO Chow, iCodus, I don't recommend those. I've seen some pretty ugly reviews on things other than IPEVO document cameras.
The IPEVO is showing for over $200.
Yeah, and people gouging, people who bought them at $100. Don't pay that for them. I'd use my smartphone instead. And this one is normally this is the one you want. It's normally $100, but yeah, it's the #1 bestseller because it's the best one. And let's see. Oh yeah, geez, don't do that. I'd improvise something before I did that. They will come back in stock. When you find them, buy them. I did have somebody tell me the other day that they bought a different IPEVO camera that's not available from anybody other than IPEVO yet. If we go to IPEVO.com, products, they were able to get this one directly from IPEVO, the DO Cam. It's a portable document camera. It's supposed to be very good, but apparently there's the focusing is all done by software. This one has a manual focus button on it, and so does the one I've got in front of me here. But this one doesn't, and apparently there's some glitch in the software that's causing it not to focus properly, and they're supposed to be fixing it like today. But I'm a little reluctant to recommend this one right now. But somebody was able to get it right now, right away, by buying it directly from IPEVO, from their online store. I can't imagine they won't fix any problems they have with it, but it's irritating to spend $129. This one's also a little more expensive. Small and cute don't come cheap. But their stuff in the past has worked exceptionally well. This one I'm using, I've had for 10 years, and it's still going strong. So I don't know whether I recommend buying that one right now or not. They're supposed to be doing a firmware update that you can download and install in it, but I'd be kind of inclined to wait until I got that sorted out. But having a document camera, especially if you habitually use the whiteboard in class, or if you hold stuff up for students to see and show and tell and so on, you really need a document camera. You might be able to borrow one from your AV department or from your academic department. Some of them, particularly math departments, sometimes have them to lend, but it's worth having your own. And it's a really important tool in the toolbox for Zoom classes.
Dave,
and yes, go for it.
Yeah, if you have the document camera in addition to the regular camera, can the monitor view will work if you go back and forth? Let's say if I use PowerPoint and this document camera, can screen 1 will work as a default screen?
I'm sorry, what was that last bit?
You are talking about keeping the screen 1 as a default screen, your computer monitor.
Right.
Will that work if you go back and forth from this?
Oh, sure, sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I can have. Let's see if I've got PowerPoint handy here. Indeed, you can share your PowerPoint presentations on your screen while you're in a Zoom meeting and record them, of course, and your narration thereof. All you have to do is be sharing your screen, as I'm doing now, my default screen, which if you only have one screen, obviously is one you're going to share. If you have multiple screens, Zoom will automatically share the screen that's straight in front of you, your number one monitor.
Okay.
But let's say I bring up a PowerPoint presentation here, and you're seeing that. I can share it. I can go into slideshow mode if I need to, or I can just share it this way in edit mode. And I can go through that, and then I can just minimize that, and there's my document camera sitting right under it.
I see.
I can go back and forth between them just by bringing the applications up and down. So sure, yeah, they're not mutually exclusive.
Okay.
So hi.
Hi.
So I use a bamboo tablet instead of DocCam. I just
put
a link in the chat, and I open up a drawing program like Photoshop, and I sort of write with the stylus.
Right.
And I like that
That
better
is
than
an option.
Yeah, because I can basically just share my drawing app, and then I can save it as like a PDF or a JPEG, and I put it in Canvas Reader, so they have everything that I've written. So that's an option.
Yeah, and you don't even have to have a separate application for that either. You can share with Zoom a shared whiteboard.
Right. Yeah, you can do the whiteboard and save that too.
Yeah, and you can select your whiteboard to share. And let's see, if I do that, I think that's gonna override this share. Yep. Now you can see the Zoom, and if you have a graphics tablet like a Bamboo, that will allow you to write effectively on the screen without, it's difficult to do so with a mouse.
Yeah, the reason I like the drawing program instead of the whiteboard is that I don't think I like to like copy and paste problems from the book.
Right, right.
And I don't think you can do that with the whiteboard in Zoom, which is a bit annoying. But I don't
believe you can. No, it's not that.
Oh, is it? If you can show me that, that would be great, because it will eliminate.
I don't know the way to do that myself.
All right.
So yeah, with the other drawing apps, certainly you have more capability. Though this, you don't have to buy anything; it's already there.
Right. Exactly.
So and that's an excellent strategy as well. And the graphics tablet cost about the same amount as the document camera, probably.
I think it's about $40.
Pardon?
I just saw one for about $40.
Yeah, some of the, particularly on eBay and things like that, some of but they are somewhat limited compared to the document camera. You can do more things with a document camera than you can do with a graphics tablet, but that's certainly a good option, especially if you already have the tablet. I will say that on the kind of drawing tablet or graphics tablet that we're going to be able to afford, they take quite a lot of practice to write legibly on. Even though you are writing with like a stylus instead of a mouse, you're not looking at what you're writing. You're looking at it on the screen. You're not looking at your fingers while you're writing. You're looking at the screen to see what you're writing on the graphics tablet. And that's a perversely challenging bit of coordination. It takes a lot of practice to be able to write legibly with a graphics tablet. And so I've never really mastered that myself. That's why I like the document camera, and then I can write on a piece of paper, like I'm more common, more familiar with. Yes.
I joined the meeting a little late, but I don't know if someone already asked this. Could you create fake Zoom meetings just to practice and tinker with all this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh. And in fact, you can record those meetings and make a video for your students by just recording a meeting that no one else is in.
Okay.
And then share that with them later. So yes, absolutely. All of these capabilities in Zoom work, whether you have anybody else in the meeting with you or not.
Okay.
So good question.
Thank you.
Let me see now. Let me take a quick look at our outline here and make sure that I'm done, because we are we're outside our time limit. Yeah, except to mention that Zoom works just as well on mobile devices as it does on computers, particularly if you're attending the meeting on a mobile device. You can, in a pinch, hold a class on Zoom using, as the host, using your smartphone. I've had to do it a couple of times. I don't recommend it as a regular thing, but I've been in a situation a couple of times where that was my only option. But all smartphones today and tablets have Zoom apps that you can download onto them, and you can attend a meeting quite effectively, or attend a lecture quite effectively from your smartphone or an iPad or an Android tablet. And I will tell you that some of your students are doing that. A lot of them may be doing that. A lot of your students don't have computers at home. They just have mobile devices like smartphones or tablets. And they can attend your meetings, your Zoom lectures, just as effectively on those devices as they can on a computer. But you do have to be aware that that may be, and particularly when you're sharing your screen and so on, blowing up what you're sharing if you're in a web browser by doing Control+, making the print bigger and things like that is a big help for people who are on smartphones. That's Control+ to blow it up and Control- to zoom back out again. On any web browser, that will work. So, and on things like PowerPoint, of course, you can blow up the screens by using a little zoom control in the lower right-hand corner. So keeping in mind that some of your students are going to be on their smartphones is a good idea. And that pretty much covers everything I wanted to say today. So now I'm going to take other questions. Thank you for keeping those questions during the session on topic in the areas we were in, but I'm sure there are some others that we haven't dealt with yet. And I'll stay here as long as you have them. I'd first like to go back to the chat tool and see one of those, see some of those. How can I use a pointer in recording my session as a lecture? Well, typically you'd use your mouse pointer. If you're sharing your screen, as I'm doing here, am I? This is where I get into trouble. No, I'm not sharing my screen. Let me do that. Bingo. Okay. And I shared the whiteboard because I didn't change the setting. Sorry, my bad. There we go. All right, now I'm sharing my screen. You can see my PowerPoint here. You can just use your mouse cursor as a pointer. You, of course, want to make the mouse cursor as big as you can get it, and so on. You can control that in Windows anyway, in your control panel under Mouse. And you can go to Pointers, and you can select different kinds of pointers. You can also go to Pointer Options, and you can do things like display pointer trails, which kind of follow, the little trail follows the pointer around, makes it easier for your students to see what you're doing and where the pointer is, but it's also somewhat irritating. They don't really have a large pointer option anymore.
Where is that, Dave?
This is on a Windows machine. This is in the control panel.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question, or do I need
Yes.
to? Okay,
Thank
good. Good. In the mouse, there's a mouse control panel in the general control panel. Okay, good question. Shown how to share the desktop. And we talked a little bit about green screen options. That virtual background that I showed you, the virtual background options under video, work better if you have what is called a green screen, which of course is just that, a green drape behind you, which I do. You then tell Zoom that you have a green screen, and it's much easier for it to put these options behind you. You can put either still images behind you, like a picture. I've taken out my back window there. That was a pretty day. Or even little videos. If you watch this one carefully, you can see the traffic going across the Golden Gate Bridge. So, using virtual backgrounds is very simple in Zoom, but it does work better if you have a green screen behind you. If you don't, you can uncheck this and you can still do a reasonable job. Though if I move around, notice that I kind of, in the worst case, I'll sometimes kind of vanish and come back into the screen and so on. It's not, if I move my arm around, you see shadows and things like that. It doesn't work as well without the green screen, but it does work as long as your computer has certain minimum processing capabilities. You just have to try it and see if your computer is up to it. It helps if you have a background behind you that is reasonably uncluttered. If it's too busy, it's not going to work. This is not going to work as well. And in other words, if there are a lot of different objects, ideal is like a light colored wall behind you. It really doesn't have to be green. If it's just a light colored featureless wall, and you uncheck I have a green screen, your virtual background will work pretty well. You just have to try it and see if the result is acceptable. Chances are it will be. Zoom has really done a good job on this. And to do something like what I was showing you earlier with the birds behind me in a live video and so on requires hundreds of dollars worth of equipment, whereas this just works. It comes with Zoom. And you may or may not need a green screen behind you, depending on what's behind you when you're typically Zooming. But it's worth a try, and it's fun. Let's see. Can you require students to turn on their camera during a test? That's a really good question. Normally, you can't require your students to turn on their cameras. I've gotten that from on high at the district. But if you had them and they were taking a test and you were watching them, yeah, I think you can require them to turn on their cameras. There are proctoring tools that we're trying to acquire that require them to do that are not Zoom. That are where people will watch them for you and tell you if they cheat or whatever. But it's another value added use of Zoom sometimes is to make your students come into a Zoom meeting while they take a test. You can even force them to share their screens periodically, so you see that they're not in Google or something like that when they're supposed to be answering test questions in Canvas or something. So yeah, I think you could require your students in that particular scenario to turn on their video and to share their screens periodically. And in fact, in Zoom, if you allow it, more than one person can share their screen at a time. and they go into a list, and you as the host can scroll through them and see different people's screen shares all at the same time, or and sequentially, not all at the same time. But you can force them to share their screens so that you can see what's up on their computer monitor while they're taking the test. And requiring them to do that, I think, would be a legitimate thing. Interesting question. How do I get the roster file of students who attended a meeting? You can do that by going to your Zoom management screens at zoom.us, where we've been on and off today. Here. Confer, cccconfer.zoom.us and zoom.us are the same thing. This Zoom knows that my account is owned by CCC Confer, so they dump me back here, but it's the same thing. You see the same screens. Don't worry about that. I can go to reports, and I want usage reports, so I select usage. Now I can, and I do a lot of Zoom meetings, many of which are just individual, not individual, but dummy meetings, if you will, where I'm the only dummy in there, and I'm checking something out, or I'm recording something or something like that. But so not all of these are real Zoom meetings. But you can select a time frame over which to look for Zoom meetings, up to a month in duration, though you can go further back than a month. You just have to start, you can't look at more than a month at a time. So if I wanted to see all the Zoom meetings I did in July, I can set my start date at July 1st and my end date at July 31st. It automatically did that for me. And then I can search for the Zoom meetings. And I'll look here, I can see among the meeting ID, which is always the same because I'm always using my personal meeting room. And the department stuff really doesn't give you much information. You can see the start and end time of the meeting, so you can tell when it took place. You can see how long it was, and you can see how many people were in it. All these meetings with one person in it, well, that's me doing something on Zoom. So there's none in that first little bit there, but I can page forward using this icon right here. Here's one with 54 people in it. That was obviously a real, that was one of these recorded Zoom sessions like this one today. It was 216 minutes, so that means this was an actual meeting or an actual Zoom seminar. So to find out who was in there, I can tell right away there were 54 people in there at some point. If I click on that number, which is a hyperlink, I get the actual attendance list. Not only can I tell who was in there, but I can tell when they joined and when they left and how long they stayed in there. So some people have stayed, some people stayed the whole time, some part-time, some bopped out almost immediately. You can tell if your students stay in for the entire meeting.
Dave, this is Ram. In case
yes, Ram.
In case students don't use their full name, can this raster sheet be useful? For example, phone numbers, things of that nature, or only first name, no last name?
It's just whatever name they put in to their Zoom. Yeah. So that's a limitation with it, but it's still useful. Yes.
It's Randy. Can this page be printed out as well so we can use it as an attendance kind of thing?
Yes. Well, what you can do is you can, at the top, you can export it. to what's called a comma separated value field. It's something you can open up in Excel. So I can just save that to Excel, or save that to somewhere on my hard drive. And there it is down there. And I can double click that and open it up in Excel. And here it is.
And Dave, you can check that you export it with the meeting ID.
Right. Or you can just jot that down in the name of the file. But notice it does show the meeting ID in the file name. And you can just expand this so you can get all this, and you can then print it from Excel, or you can just save the Excel spreadsheet and reference it from there.
Dave,
So,
I need to leave the meeting. How can we get the recording of this meeting?
Good question. That is available on our on-demand video site, or will be available at sdccdolvid.org. Let me put that in the chat tool.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And I will probably be answering questions for a while. So everything will be in the recording. Okay, I just put that in the chat tool. Remember, you can save that. Or you can just remember SDCCD, San Diego Community College District, OL, online, VID, video.org. And at the top of the screen, when you go in, there's a workshop archives button. And the workshop, all of the Zoom recordings are under that. And the most recent ones are listed first. So, but there are like 10 or 12 pages, a dozen a page, going back 5-6 years at least in there. And there are already previous instances of this session, many of them in there. We've done this one many times over the last few months. So you'll be able to find recordings of anything you need, and look through, you'll see some others. If there's another topic you're interested in and you can't attend live, those recordings will be there. Assuming I remember to start the recording. There's at least one of everything there. Good questions. Let's see. Let me go back and pick up. And Pauline, I do want to talk to you about why your meeting link is not working. So don't let me forget that. Okay, we already answered that. Yep, done that. Should we give our Zoom meeting link to potential course crashers on the first day of class? Yeah, I think I would. I think I probably would. I don't think you're likely to regret that. How do you get a green screen? Good question. You can buy them from lots of places. Amazon certainly has them. Just go to Amazon, search for green screen. You'll know what you mean. Green screen or green screen backdrop, either way. Here's one for 23 bucks, 6x9. It's just a piece of cloth with the right green color. By the way, there's nothing magic about that green color. You can use other colors, but it's just that, except on St. Patrick's Day, no one would be caught dead wearing that color. And if you're wearing green and you sit in front of a green screen, you disappear. So just don't use it on St. Patty's Day. But for $24, you can have that tomorrow, well, in a couple of days. Then you can just hang it over a door or a coat rack or something like that. It's helpful if you have an ironing board. Getting the wrinkles out can be a little challenging, but usually they don't make that much difference. The wrinkles don't. I have a different setup behind me. If I unshare my screen, and if you go to speaker view, so you can see my screen full screen, I can go to, oh, and let me take that, I gotta take that Zoom virtual background out. You won't be able to see this, there we go. Now I can bring up camera 3, yeah. If you wanna spend a little more, get something that works a little better, sorry, I'm having a, there we go. Now I can see what I'm doing. Let me zoom out a little bit here. I've got a green screen that's on a stand, a fairly good professional video stand. And this one, though you can't really tell it, this one is not cloth, it's paper. It's like heavy butcher paper, and it's still got to work this out. Myself out of the shot here. It threads over a bar at the top of the screen. It's just a big roll of this green paper that I then pull down to give myself a green background that is perfectly smooth. And if something happens to that, I can just pull another length of that down. The roll of paper cost about $50. The stand cost about $100. But it gives me a really nice green backdrop. I've also, of course, got some lighting as well on that. That helps. You get a little bit better result if you've got photography lighting, which was not terribly expensive either. You should be able to see that now. Me out of the way. Just an umbrella light. Got a couple of those on either side. So for $200 or $300, you can have a really nice setup. But you got to be really seriously bored and have a very understanding spouse. Okay. Is there a way to disable private messaging for an individual meeting versus for all meetings? Well, you can just, yeah, there is a setting that will disable private conversations in your Zoom meeting settings. And you can turn that on and off at will. So for a particular meeting, you can turn it on, then you can go in and turn it off. And that meeting, it is in, let me see if I can find that setting. Private chat. Allow meeting participants to send a private one-on-one message to another participant. You can turn that off. And for the duration, they won't be able to do it. And then later you can go back in and turn that on. There's no way to do that in the meeting, I don't think. I think you have to do that before you start the meeting in your meeting settings. And then remember to go back and set it back the way you want it when you're done. For waiting rooms, is this useful for latecomers to class to wait until I let them in? Yes, that is, if you want people to, let's see, I am not sharing my screen. I got to remember that. So we're just talking here. That would be a perfectly legitimate use of the Zoom meeting room or waiting room, excuse me. You could say it, you know, at 5 after I'm locking the doors to the classroom, and you're going to have to wait for me to let you in, and I'm going to know that you got there late. So I can certainly see you doing that. How to let them in when they appear, a message will pop up on your screen saying there's somebody in the waiting room waiting to get in.
Are we supposed to be seeing your screen, Dave?
No, I'm not sharing my screen right now because I don't have the waiting room enabled, so I can't show it to you right now. But thank you for asking very much. Is there a limit to the number of people who can co-host? I don't think so. I did demonstrate the whiteboard. The share feature on an iPad is a little different than on a computer. Could you show that? Well, I can't exactly show that because I bought an iPad 1 when it first came out and immediately decided I didn't need another one. But it works exactly the same way on an iPhone, and it works pretty much the same way on an Android phone or an Android tablet. So I can show you that because I have my document camera handy. I can pull up IPvo Visualizer, and there's my smartphone. And so I can pull that up, and I can put this into the Zoom meeting. Maybe I won't show my PIN code. Oh, she's always got to keep everything in mind. Okay, let's see. I can probably make this a little bigger here so you can see that a little better. The document camera is just marvelous for all sorts of stuff. So I can go to Zoom. There's my Zoom app. It's free. You can download it from the iOS or the Android App Store. You just tap on the app. And if, for instance, somebody sends you a Zoom link in an email, you can just tap on the Zoom link in the email, and the phone knows enough to automatically open Zoom and drop you into the meeting. But you can also join a meeting on your phone by just tapping join and entering the meeting ID, which I think I remember mine is 391499. Yet another number to remember. This is my Social Security number, about the only ones I still remember. Let's see if I remember this one. 5946. There's my personal meeting ID. And just tap join. He said, apparently not. Let me share my screen here for a second. I'll show you what. This will be useful to see. I want to make that, get that out of the way for a second. Share my screen. Okay, now to get my meeting ID and make sure I've got it right, I can go to this little information button in the upper left-hand corner, 5946. I think I scrambled that. Okay. Back to the phone. 39391499596. Join. I tell you, it's hell getting old. Okay, I'm in. I'm not going to activate the sound. You never want two devices in the same Zoom meeting in the same room at the same time, unless you mute one of them, the audio. Otherwise, you can get audio feedback, which is really can be deafening. So I'm going to cancel that. Okay, so here's my phone. Now, I'm in this session as my phone. I've showed up. I should have showed up here somewhere. There I am. I'm still sharing my screen. Okay. I do have to go to my security icon and make sure that I have screen sharing for participants enabled. Okay, now I do. So, because it doesn't know who my phone is from Adam. Because I'm not logged into Zoom on my phone right now. So how can I share my phone screen? Well, I have to stop my share. I'll stop my screen share and bring the IPvo visualizer back. I'm seeing me because I'm the one talking, and a bit of my green screen and so on. It's a little messy, but it'll do. Now I can tap the screen and I can share. I've got a share button just like I do on the computer, and I can share my screen, my photo app, stuff from my iCloud drive, which I don't use. I can share a website, or I can share a bookmark, but I'm just going to share my screen. And then I can go and start broadcast. It counts me down. And now my broadcast to Zoom is stopped. That's interesting. Why? Try that again. Why? Now it's working. Don't ask me. You know, the old definition of insanity, trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, sometimes that works in tech. So now whatever is on my screen, you will see shared with you. And I can go into, say, Canvas. And I don't have to be sharing my visualizer screen anymore. This is just a Zoom screen share off my phone. I'm bringing up the Zoom teacher app. Whatever I do on my phone, you can see, and you can do this with your own phone as well. If you need to demonstrate something on a phone to your students, I can enter a course. You can sort of see what you tap on because it flashes. And here's a Canvas course. So yeah, you can share your screen from your phone or your tablet. And you can conduct a class that way if you have to. And when you're done, let me bring the IPvo visualizer back up. So you can see what I'm doing. When I'm done, I just tap the red bar at the top of the screen. Get the camera lost focus for a second. Stop broadcasting screen with Zoom. Stop. And now I'm no longer sharing my screen. You're just seeing me. So that's how Zoom works on a portable device, and it works amazingly well. And you don't even have to be sitting still. I've lost track of the number of Zoom meetings I've attended while roaring down the freeway at 80 miles an hour. Not driving. Don't do this while driving. But with my wife driving and me in the passenger seat. This way, if I have to attend a meeting and I don't want to be stuck at home, I can just, as long as somebody else is driving, I can attend the meeting from my phone in the car while we're going somewhere more interesting than the meeting would have been. It's a very liberating thing that you can do with Zoom that you sure couldn't do if you didn't have Zoom, or you had to attend meetings in the usual fashion. Not too many drive-in meetings.
I had students attend that way, like on their way to work or in between.
Yeah. And you hope to God they're not driving.
Oh no, like one was on a bus and other was driving, but it was just kind of funny.
Oh, exactly. It works on the bus, it works on the train, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hey, this is, Zoom is a terrific tool. Even if you're in the classroom, you can set this all up in your classroom for not much money at all, or your classroom may already have the stuff you need to do it. And you can broadcast your lectures right from the instructor's desk in the classroom to your students who are out wherever, sitting on the bus because they couldn't get there on time, in real time. And you need, to do it really well, you need a little bit of extra equipment. I've got a tutorial that shows some of the things you can get to make that a little more efficient. The document camera being a major item in that list. But pretty much you can do this from your classroom as well, and just erase the walls. It's that ideal we've had for so long, a classroom without walls. Well, Zoom really creates a classroom without walls, because your students can be anywhere. They can be on a destroyer in the Persian Gulf, hoping to God that war doesn't break out right in the middle of class and so on. It's insane, the technology that's available, and it's available to us for free. And if you had to pay for it, folks, this same Zoom Pro account that you get from the state for free costs $15 a month if you pay for it by the year, if you had to pay for it yourself. About what you pay for HBO. That's why Zoom is going to rule the world at some point in time. Oh, when is your Zoom intermediate class? Good question. I don't know. I'm not sure what my class on Friday is right this minute. Let me look. You got to realize who you're dealing with here. This hair didn't come out of a bottle. They earned every white hair in my head. Intermediate Zoom. When is the next one? Going through my calendar here. Online video production. Darn it, I don't see one right off the bat. I've got them scheduled out through December. I don't see another one of those. That's something I need to fix. Ah, there it is. I do have one scheduled. Let me see. That is, oh no, that was the one in May. Shoot. Okay, I'm going to schedule another one of those. Anybody have a suggestion on when? I'm pretty wide open right now. I'm serious. Is there a time you'd like one? I don't know if the person who asked that question is still online or not, but yeah. Susan, do you have a preference? I'll see if I can accommodate it.
How about the week before Flex?
Week before Flex, which is, that's this week, isn't it?
No, in September. So the week, the last week in August.
Last week in August. All right, let me look. I'm looking. Let me get these little Zoom windows out of the way. There's July, August. That would be the week of the 24th. I have one on Monday and one on Friday. Grading. I have assessment on, okay, how about, how does Wednesday afternoon, the 26th sound? Would that work for you?
What time?
I usually do 2 to 4 in the afternoon, but I could do it at another time.
Another time would be better for me. I have a 3:30.
How about 1:30 to 3:30? Will that work?
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yes, thank you.
All right, I'm putting that in right now, and I'll send that in to Mary and get her to, let's see, am I sharing my screen? No. Title. We aim to please.
Thank you, Dave.
Unfortunately, sometimes our aim is bad, but we do our best.
Thank you.
You are certainly welcome. This is 8:20, that's 8:26 from start time, not all day. Start time 1:30 to 3:30. Remind me an hour before, save. Okay, it's on there, and I will send that in to Mary so she gets that on the schedule. All right, back to chat. I wonder if using different meeting IDs rather than a personal meeting ID would help prevent personal meeting room bombing. Yeah, that's the rationale in the Confer Zoom app, for instance, to putting a random meeting ID on each new meeting. But you have to balance that against. Let's see. Don't know what's happening there. You have to balance that against the prospect of your students ending up in the wrong room. As I say, if you don't advertise your personal meeting room link on a public forum like Twitter or Facebook or something like that, the chances of getting Zoom bombed are very low. Otherwise, I'd be getting Zoom bombed every week because I haven't used anything but my personal meeting ID for months and months. So the risk is very low. To me, the risk of having the students end up in the wrong room is much greater than the risk of a Zoom bombing, which I can control even if it happens. I have on that, let me share my screen. On that on-demand video site that we were talking about earlier, I've got a Zoom Basics page that you can access. It's in the slideshow at the top of the page. Just come in, you'll see that within a minute or so, or within a few seconds. And in this, it's just a list of tutorials. It basically covers what we covered today, but in a lot less time. Now he tells me. But I've got a tutorial on defusing a Zoom bombing and another one on an aspect of that called how to deal with a phantom illustrator Zoom bomber, which is somebody who draws stuff on your screen. These will give you all the tools you need to handle this if it does happen. And like I say, it's very rare unless you have to share your personal meeting room ID publicly. And then you better watch out. You better be ready. Good question, though. Can we edit them? I'm not sure what that was in reference to. And the ospreys are happy that you saw them. Somebody liked the ospreys. When allowing others to also share their screens, do I have to make them co-hosts? No. You can allow participant screen sharing. If I divide them into groups, breakout rooms, can they still see the screen I share in the original meeting? No. They can see it in the recording, but they can't see it in the meeting. You can share screens in breakout rooms, but only within the breakout room. And you can't share your screen across all breakout rooms at the same time. You can send a message to all breakout rooms, a text message simultaneously, but you can't share your screen. Are you able to scramble the groups automatically several times in the meeting? You'd have to delete the groups and recreate them, but yes, you could do that. It wouldn't take very long to do it. And you can manually shuffle people between rooms that have already been created while they're in sessions. I probably don't have time to show that right now, but it is possible to do that. And the information you'll need is in our last intermediate Zoom recording, which is online now, I believe. Okie dokie. I don't have a document camera. I saw a function near share that said whiteboard. I think we did that. We looked at that. Are you really going to show how to use your smartphone as a document camera? Yes, I can do that. Let me think. Basically, all I have to do to use my phone as a document camera is to join the meeting using my phone, which I've already done, and then share the screen, which I showed you how to do earlier. So I start the broadcast, see if it actually works this time. Yes. All right, I just bumped myself off, but I'm allowed to do that. Okay, so now I'm sharing my screen of my phone. So I can just, let's get out of that. Now you can see my phone. Now I can pull up my camera app. And there's my phone camera. I can rotate it 90 degrees. And I can now just hold it up above the, let me get the document camera out of the way. I can hold it up. So it works as a document camera. There is, of course, just one problem here. My arm's going to get tired. So you need some way to suspend the phone in space without you having to hold it. I have a couple of possibilities in that regard for you. Let me stop the phone share here so I can show you other stuff. I'll stop that. All right. One way to do it, actually I've seen a number of clever improvisations to make this happen. Let me share my screen again here. We have a tutorial on here. As a matter of fact, it's on the home screen. If I pop through these featured videos, I think it's still here. That's one of my favorite videos. Nope, I guess I removed it. Anyway, you can search for it. Search for smartphone. or just search for Zoom, and there it is, broadcasting using an improvised smartphone document camera. This is a solution we came up with several years ago during a session that we did. And let me full screen that so you can see it better. High tech, I tell you. Took a smartphone, strapped it to a ruler with a rubber band, with the main camera facing downward. I then went to a computer in the lab. The computer wasn't quite tall enough to give the smartphone enough viewing field. So I put a box that I had handy on that got the ruler, just got the phone high enough, and then sat a weight on top of the ruler. Pencil sharpener that happened to be handy on the desk next to it. And that worked like a charm. I've seen lots of other very imaginative solutions similar to this, where the person suspended the phone in the air stably. If you want something that's a little bit more, a little bit less improvised, let's see here. Let me stop my screen share. If you'll go to speaker view so you can see what I'm about to do, I'm going to move my camera here around. Here, sitting right in front of this camera, is a stand, support stand, with a smartphone holder on the end of it. You can just put your smartphone right into that. It's just got a spring in it. You can pull it out and it'll fit any smartphone, and that will hold the smartphone anywhere you like. You can, this is a gooseneck thing, so you can move it around, and you can put that right over your desktop, and it will hold the smartphone in place. That cost, I think, $30, and it's less improvised. Let me share. I think I have that link even still in my Amazon cart. Let's see. Orders. Thank God for Amazon. It's almost as important as Zoom. There it is. I don't think this particular one is still available, but there's another one. Yeah, that one's currently unavailable, but let me see. There'll be another one listed here. There. Ah, well, that's not it. You can do all sorts of things with this holder too. This is the one that they still have, I believe. It's basically the same thing for about the same price. $32. And here's, I'll put the Amazon link in the chat tool. So if you're interested, that's one way that you can easily use your smartphone as a document camera. It's cheaper than a document camera, and the picture quality is about the same, to tell you the truth. The camera's in, because mine's an old smartphone and mine works fine. Yours will probably work better. So that's something you can do.
So Dave, I bought a little,
yeah.
I wish I remembered to bring it upstairs because it's still in the trunk, but I bought a little mini, like 6-inch. It's a flexible that holds a smart.
The Gorilla Pod, yeah.
So if I can find something secure to put it on, that should work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
just anything that will suspend the phone in the air where you want it.
I'll call it. And it was for $1.99 at the 99-cent store.
I love it. Love it. Good for you.
I haven't tried
Of course,
it yet.
it's worth your life to go into a dollar store right now without a respirator, but yeah, I love it.
Everywhere else, like on Amazon, the cheapest I found was $6.99 or
Right. Indeed.
25 extra.
That's a good price.
But I'll test it out. That's what I want to know. So just suspend it. And then I think the thing is you're sharing your screen from the phone.
Yes. Oh, no, you don't have to share your screen from the phone. You just pull up your phone's camera app.
Okay, so I have to download an app.
Oh, no. All smartphones have a camera app.
Okay.
So all you have to do is pull up what you pull up to take a picture.
Hey, I just recently got a smartphone, like literally last Friday. So.
Well, on an iPhone, it's still pretty much the same. I'm sharing screen, pull up the visualizer on the, I have to refocus when I do that. Okay, on an iPhone, and it's the same, you got the same app basically on an Android phone as well. You just hit your camera app. And if this app is in the I do need to pin this video. Let's see, where am I? Oh, sorry, I took the phone out of the meeting. My bad. Oh no, there it is. Just wasn't looking. Okay. So I just go to the camera app again. I make sure my video is turned on in Zoom. That's what I did. I turned the video off in Zoom. I don't want to do a screen broadcast. I want out. Zoom. I want to go back to Zoom. Come on. Oh, sorry. And the phone's locked. There, finally got it on. And now I just turn the video back on. There it is. And point it at my, oh, I've got the wrong camera on. That would go back to the back camera. There we go. And finally, flip over, and there we are. So that's just the camera in the phone. It's not, I'm not sharing the screen on the phone. I'm just using the camera.
Okay.
Okay.
You said the front camera, not the back camera.
Probably the back camera. It's usually better than the front camera, but you could use either one. It's easier to do with the back camera, though.
Thank you.
You bet. Okie dokie. Okio Cam is selling for $70 on Amazon. Yeah. I don't know. Be sure you can send it back. All right. All right. We talked about that. Is there a way I can click mute all and still hear the presenter? Well, if you're able to click mute all, you are the presenter, you are the host. No, you can't. If you mute all, you mute everybody but you, the host. So, is there a way to show only my first name in the thumbnail? Yes. You can do that. I'm sharing my screen, you're seeing my Zoom screens. You can right click on yourself or command click on a Mac and select rename. And you can rename yourself anything you like. Which of course sometimes leads to problems when your students figure out they can do the same thing. But yes, you can do it.
But
Yes.
Dave, my students do that regularly, and it really is nice because it makes the screens cleaner instead of having these long names. And but I can't go into my profile and just have my first name, right? I have to rename myself every time.
I don't think so. I think you have to rename yourself each time.
Okay.
Is there a phone number I can call if there's a problem? Not so much a phone number. You can put in a trouble ticket with Zoom.
Right.
Let's go to settings, to Zoom. Let's see. Support is here somewhere. Let me see. Well, normally that's all over the place. Where is it? Get training. Let me try. Support, there it is. At zoom.us, you can go to support. And contact support. And only if you're an account admin can you call them, but you can end users of any account. There's a chat bot. Licensed users, and you are a licensed user. So there's an online form you can fill out. And that is at that URL. I've just put that in the chat tool.
So
what kind of response you're going to get, I'm not sure.
Right. And one time I actually went in a half an hour early, and it was saying that I was not the host, and I had to wait for the host to open up the meeting. And I had like 50 students. And luckily, one of my students is an instructor, and I was able to redirect all my students over to his Zoom room.
Okay,
But
I think I probably know what happened there. I've had that question a couple of times recently. In order to be, if you have your, well, let me ask you this. When you entered the, how did you enter your meeting?
Right, I didn't come through my personal meeting room. I just used the link. So now every time I come through the personal meeting room.
Yeah, you use the link. Okay, yeah, that can be a trap. And that very thing can happen. It can tell you, even though you're the host, it can tell you the host hasn't started the meeting yet.
Right.
critical, to avoid that, critical thing is to make sure that in your Zoom client, oops, that's not the one I wanted. There we are. In your Zoom desktop client, be sure you're logged in. Otherwise, Zoom doesn't know you're the host. There'll be a, if there's no avatar up here, there will be a login button. And be sure you're logged in here.
Right.
And then it'll automatically know that you're the host when you try to enter via the link. You'll be okay. But if you haven't logged into your client manually,
right,
it's liable to do that to you. It took me some time today to figure out why that was happening, and that seems to be the most common issue for that. And it's a heck of a thing to have that happen right as you're trying to get into your meeting. Another sure way to avoid that is to just always either enter through the Zoom website using Start Meeting from your personal
right,
meeting room or whatever, or use the Zoom client to enter. There will be a, I don't want to do that. There will be a button on your Zoom client that says New Meeting. If you start it that way, it knows who you are. But if you try the link yourself and you don't happen to be logged into your desktop client,
right,
it it does that very thing, and it's sure frustrating. It's happened to me.
So if I'm doing start a meeting, if I'm going through meetings, then my personal meeting room and start a meeting, I'm pretty
You're
good.
fine. It knows who you are.
Okay.
Because you're logged in at the website. And perversely enough, being logged in at the website and being logged into your desktop client are not the same thing. There's two places you have to log in to be sure that that doesn't happen. But if you do what you just described, Donna, go to zoom.us, go to your personal meeting room and click Start Meeting, you'll be fine.
Okay, great.
That will work every time.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. When do you have a studio meeting? This coming Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m. Same personal meeting link. I'll be doing an introduction to Canvas Studio. Okay, we did that. Is it true that use of the iPhone for a camera for sharing in a Zoom class will eat up minutes in one's cell phone contract? No. It does use cellular data. So if you have a limited data plan, when you go in through the Zoom app, if you're not in a Wi-Fi cloud, if you're on cellular connectivity, it will use cellular data bandwidth, which you probably have a limited amount of. But if you're in Wi-Fi, like if you're at home and you have your own Wi-Fi system and you're using that with the phone, then it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't use up anything. So probably, certainly it's never going to use cell phone minutes. That's only for voice calls. Those are only for voice calls. But it can, if you're if your phone is connected to the internet through a cell tower rather than a local Wi-Fi connection, then yes, you could use some of your bandwidth. And if you don't have an unlimited bandwidth plan, you can run out. I hope I answered that clearly. Can you put Zoom recordings on YouTube, or do they have to stay on Zoom? Oh, you certainly can. You can put your Zoom recordings on YouTube or on Canvas Studio. I think I showed you how to do it on Canvas Studio. I'm sorry, my light is changing here. Let's see if I can clean that up a little bit. Oh, that's fine. Yes, you definitely can put your Zoom recordings on YouTube. As a matter of fact, we have tutorials for that. In our on-demand site, if you go to Zoom recording, or just search for Zoom and sort through, but we have quite a few Zoom tutorials, so add the word recording would be good. Search. Here's recording to your local computer in Zoom and loading the recording onto YouTube. That tutorial will show you how to do that. Or if you decide you want to move your Zoom recordings from the Zoom cloud to YouTube, this tutorial will show you how to do that. So just go to, for those tutorials, just go to sdccdolvid.org, search for Zoom recording, and those two will pop up. So it took us, thanks. I'll have to work on how to use my cell phone on Wi-Fi.
Right now.
I
said Dave is going on right now.
Yeah. Let me get the document camera up again.
Here's the host.
To put your iPhone anyway on Wi-Fi, you go to your settings icon, that odd looking little thing with gears, and make sure that Wi-Fi, that's the second option here, is turned on. Make sure it's turned on and make sure it's connected to a Wi-Fi network. Mine is already connected to my home network, but if I wanted to connect to one of these others, I could tap on it. Of course, it's going to ask me for a password. That's my across the street neighbor. I had their password at one point when they were helping us out, but I don't know what it is. But you have to have your Wi-Fi password, but that's all there is to set. And in some cases, you may be able to go to like McDonald's or whatever and attach to their public Wi-Fi network that has no password, and you can just join their network and then use the phone, use their bandwidth, which they're perfectly happy to have you do. Most places they won't even hassle you, but if you buy a Coke or a sandwich or something and sit there and nurse it. I've done, when I first moved up here, I had terrible Wi-Fi or terrible internet, and more than once I had to go to McDonald's, which is about 18 miles away, and do my work from there. And they were very accommodating. So they're nice people, and their Wi-Fi is generally pretty good. Okie dokie, are there still stalwart people without a life here? My God. Oh yes. Bless your heart. Any other questions?
Dave, you're the best.
I'm afraid I've hit my expiration date, Donna. But somehow I managed to keep trying. Thank you. You're sweet.
I love your thing about that your white hair didn't come from a bottle.
Yeah. I didn't have to work to look like this. Actually, absent the long hair, I've looked about like this since I was 35. So
it's a great look. Thank you, Dave.
Well, it's better than some alternatives, I guess. You're certainly welcome, Donna. It's great to have you today.
Thanks for all you're doing in this crisis that we're in here. So thank you.
Well, it's fun. This is my social life too. So I'm very happy to be here. Does anybody else have a question? Just unmute. Remember to unmute yourself if you're trying to.
I think your wife is calling you to join her in watching the movie.
That's not impossible. Not impossible at all. But I'm sure I've got a couple more minutes if anybody has anything else. Playing with my switcher here. All righty. Pauline?
You hear me?
Yes, I do.
Can I use that personal meeting link?
Yeah, let's take a look at your personal meeting ID. Let's see here. Trying to think of the best way to do that. Can you email me that link?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, let me find it here.
Yeah, you already have that link.
But was that the one with the screenshot, though?
No.
No. Okay, good. All right, I'm going to look for it right now. Just a second.
The one that I email you. That one it gave me by the supporting. That's Confer Zoom.
I'm looking. I'll have it in a second. Okay. I maybe see the problem, but let me try it.
When I click
Yeah.
it,
Okay. Let me show you what I got, Pauline.
Okay.
Let me share screen. Okay, I'm sharing the screen. This is what I got.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's not your, that is the redacted version
Yeah, that's the
of
one.
your, yeah. So what we need to do is go to, let me show you what mine looks like. If I go to zoom.us and go into my my account, go to my profile.
Yeah, I went to my profile. That's the
Right. Before you copy that, you've got to click show.
Click show.
Yeah. Right next to the personal meeting link in your profile. It's not showing this, but in case of somebody looking over your shoulder.
So I have to.
But in order to copy it, to send it, you've got to click show so you get the whole thing without the asterisks.
Oh, I see.
Now you copy that and send that. And I'm so sorry I didn't catch that earlier. I should have thought of that as a possibility. So that was it. It had to be something like that. Same thing if you want to give somebody your personal meeting ID, you have to show it and then copy it.
Yeah. So that's mean I have to click show, and then I use that link.
Right.
To send it
use
to
that
my.
link.
Is that right?
Yeah. Then you can just send that link to someone, or you can put that link into an external URL or a menu item in Canvas.
Okay. Yeah, I can put it in announcement.
But it has to be, you can't have the asterisks in there.
Oh, I see. All right. Okay.
Thank goodness. Okay. We got that one solved. Not too often we can solve one just right away like that.
I see it.
Okay. Good question.
In that case,
Let's see. My pleasure.
oh, I see. Even that.
Anything else?
Hi, Dave.
Yes.
Yeah, even that's in my canvas here that I try to click that Confer Zoom in order to open the meeting. So it did come out, And
Well, that shouldn't affect that. You should be able to go. Pauline?
Yeah.
Do you have two devices? I see you twice.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you have two devices in the meeting at the same time?
That's right.
Yeah, you need to mute one of those. That's why we're getting this feedback.
Okay.
That will cause problems.
So I think, when you click,
there you go.
Show, so that's mean, when you send that to students, but in the
yes.
itself here, the Zoom here, when I click it, it doesn't come out. Why? It still say server's not found.
Let's see.
So what is the problem?
No, it should. If you click that, at the worst, you should see a message that the host hasn't started the meeting.
Oh, I see.
But you shouldn't see server not found if you have the complete URL.
Oh.
So
Office gave me. And the Zoom,
So if, let me share my screen again. Huh, why is it doing that? So if you take that full link and copy it to your clipboard,
okay,
and put it in just the address line of the web browser and press enter, it should just give you an option to open Zoom meeting.
Okay, you asked me to copy that and put in what?
Well, you can put it in an email. You can go to Canvas.
Okay.
And I have that link still on my clipboard here. So I can, just a second, now that I know what's going on there. 1 second, please.
I'm afraid last semester my student in
I am sharing. Never mind. Sorry. I'm looking for something that wasn't there.
Oh, does she sign yours?
Now, if I go to Canvas and I go into a course,
Then what?
And go to a module.
Yeah.
I can create a Zoom link by adding an external URL
I did
to
that.
the module.
Last time I did that, the whole procedure.
And then paste that
Yeah.
in. That's the whole thing. No asterisk.
Okay.
And then and load it in a new tab. Click Add Item. There's the newest Zoom link I just put in. If I click on that and open it in a new window, bing, open Zoom meetings, no error. So that's one way to share it. You can also do that thing with putting a link in the course menu using the redirect tool.
Okay.
And
so
click
I
on it.
using the link they gave me.
Yeah. But again, it's got to be the one without the asterisk. It's got to be the one that's in your profile.
Yeah.
But it's got to be expanded. It can't be, you can't be hiding part of it, which Zoom does by default in case somebody comes by and looks at your computer when you walk away or something. They'd have your personal meeting ID. I think it's silly. They didn't used to do that. They just got so paranoid about people getting other people's IDs that they made it difficult for all of us. But as long as you can see the entire link, you can copy and paste it into an email, into an external URL in Zoom, into a Zoom, a Zoom
So I tried to create
a menu link, whatever.
How can I get rid of the two that I did, on my,
Oh, get rid of the ones that you already put in?
Yeah.
These are the links in your menu, right?
Yeah. I have personal.
Yeah. Send me an email with the CRN of the course.
Okay.
And I have to go in and take them out for you. You can't delete them. But I'll be happy to go in and remove those, and then you can recreate them. Recreate one.
Okay.
And if it's more than one course, just send me all the CRNs, and I'll go in and clear those out for you, and you can recreate them.
Okay, I send you an email with my
Very
course.
good.
Okay, before I can redirect my personal email to get another one.
Yeah.
All right. That's the only way.
Yeah, you can just send it from Canvas or anything, whatever.
Okay.
And you've got my email address, right?
Yeah. I do.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Good.
much. I gotta do it.
All righty.
Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
If not, I'm gonna get very.
And it looks like we're just about done. So hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Okay,
Stay safe. And I'll see you again soon, I hope.
Yeah, see you.
Bye-bye.
For the